Yo, what is going on? It is Tuesday night. It is a little after 8:30, but you know what? You know what time it is. It's A2D radio. It's hockey happy hour. Business as usual here. Off season's continuing. We're gonna start a little elongated division preview series here. We got part one going on tonight with the Metropolitan division. We're gonna cover the Devils, the Flyers, and we're gonna start with the New Jersey Devils as well. We're going to continue on over the next span of 8 weeks, and hopefully that's going to lead us right into training camp. So hit that like, hit that subscribe. It's time to talk some puck. Let's go.
Oh my God! I'm embarrassed! He's flying! Oh, come in. It's almost time.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Hockey Happy Hour. I am Matt Cinsudi, along with the Dark Wing, Rob Povia.
I'm the Dark Wing?
Oh, yeah, you are the Dark Wing. Nah, the Dark Wing's Brian Daly. He's the broken one now.
Now you got to practice. It's been a few weeks.
It's been a few weeks, and I might have had a couple before I jumped on the air. So still.
Light them up. Bar time.
Kicking it off right. Let's go, boys.
Anyway, the Dark Wing, Brian Daly. The Broken One, Rob Povia.
I am Brian Daly's Ryan Reynolds.
It could be worse.
You know that movie with Jason Bateman? You know,
Right. And Mr. Switzerland, Big Bad Brad Ryer. How is everybody tonight? Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. And today on the show, as always, we are brought to you by Dr. Paul Vidal over at Specialized Physical Therapy. If you have any aches and pains, you got anything that's bothering you and it's causing problems at your work, or even if you just want to be able to walk around in comfort around the house, go to the doc. Go to www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Let the team take care of you either in Burlington or Cherry Hill, New Jersey, so you don't have any more aches and pains anymore, because you know what? Life is short enough as it is, and the last thing you want to do is have some pain that you just can't get rid of. It's just a horrible experience. So the doc will make sure that it's taken care of. All right, then. And tonight, we have the poll question, and that is brought to you by Baggio's Bread. If you're ever in New Jersey and you want to get yourself some nice food for, say, a party that you have going on, a summer celebration, if you will, and just have the friends over, have some family over as well, Baggio's Bread's a great place to go. Located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pies, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. And if you mention A2D, you get 10% off of your in-store purchase. So Baggio's Bread, that's the place to go for that. And now to the poll question, gentlemen. So as Brian alluded to when we started up, the New Jersey Devils, will they win the Metropolitan Division? Agree or disagree? Obviously, the Devils made quite a statement last year, or this past postseason, by beating the Rangers and then going on to the semifinals, even though they got the asses handed to them by the Carolina Hurricanes. Definitely something that's a huge boost for a young team that's been trying to find its way in the world. And now, gentlemen, do you think that it's time for it to pay off? Do you think the Devils will take the Metropolitan Division crown this upcoming season?
I'll go first. I'll jump in. I'll dip the toe and see how the water is. I'm going to agree to the poll. I think they are. I think, honestly, after the offseason they had and after the little run that they had, I think they are the best team to – they are the team to beat in the Metropolitan Division heading into next season. I know – there's some tough teams here with the Rangers, but the Rangers lost a couple key pieces over this offseason. You got the Carolina Hurricanes, who pretty much, in my opinion, stay par for the course with what they're trying to do. They still have a good roster. I don't think they really upgraded where they really needed to. I think the Devils did. They handled their business this offseason. They got Timo Meier back under contract. They got Jesper Bratt back under contract, both inking long-term deals. They play very aggressive on the forecheck. The only question mark for me for the Devils is their goaltending. I think the Rangers, of those three teams that I think are going to finish in your top three, the Rangers have the best goaltending. I think the Carolina Hurricanes have the better defense. And then we just saw that the defense and the goaltending really struggled against the Carolina Hurricanes. It's going to be a matter of they get oh, excuse me, I'm choking. If they can upgrade and keep that aggressive forecheck and keep teams out of their zone. If they can, I think they win this division easily. I can't say that I'm in love with the Devils, but I think they're the favorites to win in the Metro.
Oh, all right then. Robbie, do you believe that the Devils are predetermined to win this year's Metro Crown, or do you think there could be a challenger?
Maddie, as much as it pains me to say it, man, I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree with Brian. I'm going to agree with this poll that the Devils will win the Metro division. I think it's Tyler Toffoli who puts them over the top offensively. That was a big acquisition this offseason. Locking up Timo Meier, a guy that you brought in during the trade deadline, and locking him into a long-term deal also bodes well for this offense. I just don't feel the Canes or the Rangers can keep up with New Jersey's speed, as both clubs are another year older, right? I mean, Carolina's average age is just over 28, which is good for 13th highest in the league, about mid-range. The Rangers find themselves third highest at exactly 29 years of age. Sprague knows full well out, and that's just a year and a half younger than the oldest team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, who we'll be talking about later in the show. Meanwhile, New Jersey is the sixth youngest at 26.7 years of age. And I don't think the Islanders have done nearly enough this offseason to compete for the division title, but they're cap tied, as we established, last show. In the end, I think the Devils could run away with this division. Two things happen. If A, they continue to get quality goaltending from Vanacek, because Brian, it's the only place I disagree. I think they actually got pretty quality goaltending. If you look at, what the record, the goals against, the save percentage that Vanacek posted up in the regular season and the postseason. But here's the key thing. They got to develop Luke Hughes to properly develop him to be that top pair D-man to match the talent level of his brother Jack. If those two things happen, Devils run away with this division.
Well, that weird Rabbit 99 is saying the Devils are winning the cup, so he's going past the division, and he's saying, fuck it. It ain't just the division we're winning. We're going to be shitting on whatever team we face in the first round, then the second, then the third, and we're going to shit on the team in the finals and win the whole damn thing. So he's really behind that 100%. He says he has faith in Akira Schmidt. So, Brad, as you were shaking your head earlier on when Bri was talking, do you believe that the Devils will take away the Metro, or do you think that there will be a challenger for the title?
I don't think they're winning the division. Absolutely not.
Who do you
First
think
of
does?
all, I think the Rangers do. And basically, the Devils were lucky as hell to beat the Rangers. They have a shit goalie. Okay. Vanacek sucks. Schmidt sucks. Their defense isn't all that great. Okay. They score a lot of goals. Yeah, they're fast. I agree. But, you bring in the turtle, Tyler Toffoli, and you get rid of a speedster in Serengovich. I don't think that improves the team. I think that makes the team a little slower. And I don't see that. I don't see that getting over the hump and beating Carolina. And they're not going to beat the Rangers again, because I'm going to tell you right now, the Rangers getting Blake Wheeler. Blake Wheeler, at this point of his career, is a much better fit on this team than either Tarasenko or Kane. Okay? He's just the kind of player that they needed. They needed a sandpaper guy that goes in front of the net and battles, a guy that's going to win battles in the corner, not take any crap from anybody. And I do believe that he especially at $800,000 or $850, whatever he signed for. I think he's going to make a pretty big difference for the Rangers. The Rangers cleaned up their fourth line. They brought in Nick Bonino, and I think he's going to make a big difference. He can win faceoffs, and he's absolutely a solid center for the fourth line. I think that's going to help. And I just look for a rebound year from Panarin. I think you're going to see a good year from Zibanejad. And really, when you look at it, the key to the team is going to be Kakko and Lafreniere. If these guys develop and become the kind of players that we drafted them to be, they'll beat the Devils. I think it's getting to a point now. Both of them had career highs in points. It's time for these guys to hit 20, 25 goals, and they will beat the Devils. And I think that the Carolina Hurricanes are better than the Devils. They certainly beat the living daylights out of them in the playoffs last year. I don't know what the Devils did to prove that they're better than the Hurricanes, and I still think that they were lucky as hell to beat the Rangers because Akira Schmidt stinks. He's a USHL goaltender. Okay, he got lucky against the Rangers, then went back to being a USHL goalie against the Canes. Devils come in third place, and they get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs.
All right, so not exactly with the same kind of faith as maybe some others might be for the Devils.
We're all varying in degrees. Even me and Brian, who agreed that they would win the division, disagreed in our rationale getting there. So there's a lot of ways this can go, and I'm not saying anyone here is right or wrong.
As for me, for them to win the division, it's possible. I would say there are the three teams that are most likely to win the division this year right now. The Devils are one of them. Will they do it, though? I don't know. They showed a lot of heart and a lot of fire this past season, and they were very, very heavy to compete against. They were number 2. And yes, they got out of the first round, but I don't know. The season is funny the way that it works. Sometimes some teams are really good in the regular season. Some teams are bad. I think Devils are not a bad regular season team. I would, if they can be consistent, they could win it. If they start to show any signs of going through some streakiness, then they won't, because you'll then have one of those teams that we'll talk about later that'll snag that division spot and keep it and hold on to it longer than the Devils can try to come back and take it. But to say that it's out of the realm of possibilities, it would be wrong. Do I think they'll do it? I'll say no, only because I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Goaltending is one of the things I'm not sure about, but also on top of that as well, as good as they were last year, there were teams that were keeping up with them and staying a step ahead of them. The Hurricanes were obviously the team that stayed a step ahead of them. But if that happens again this year, I could see it where the Devils could miss out on a division title. Does it really mean anything, though, in the long run? Well, a division title don't mean shit if you beat the team in the playoffs. So, but we continue forward. All right. And the Flyers fan, 1995, he had an interesting take there, saying that the Flyers would go all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and take the number 1 overall pick in the draft the following draft. If the Flyers are able to pull that off, Danny Briere is officially the greatest GM of all time in the history of the Flyers, and this Flyers team is considered the luckiest team in the history of the NHL to win a Stanley Cup, and probably the most undeserving on top of it. So,
crown him, greatest GM ever.
All right. So, with that being said, gents, we might as well dive in to our first period. And the first period is the Flyers breakdown. That is brought to you by none other than eXp Realty LLC. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, then the person to go to is Alan Foy. Contact him at 302-682-8820 and then also email him at alan.foy@exprealty.com. If you're going to make a big move in life, then you know what? Get the person who knows what they're doing. Don't go to just anybody. Alan Foy is the one you want to go to. All right, then. So, to the Flyers breakdown. So, since it's been a couple of weeks since I've been here, it's been a lot has happened. A lot happened with the Flyers. Some players went out, some new players came in, and there's been some big re-signings. And so far, you know what I'm looking at? I don't think Danny's been doing a bad job. I think he's been doing a solid enough job of making sure to look at the young players and make sure we can keep them for the future so that they can develop. And on top of that as well, I like the fact that, you know, he is willing to try and shed contracts, which is important to do so, needing to do that. So far, I'd say Danny's been doing a pretty good job. I know some people complain about the returns that the Flyers have been getting, and I understand that to an extent. I get it. If you're going to get rid of a big contract, you want to get something in return. Or if you're getting rid of a player that has a bit of a name, you want to get something in return for it. But I'm looking at it from the perspective of the books, because that's what's more important right now, the salary cap. Do we have the room to re-sign young talent, or do we not? And so far, I think Danny's been doing a decent enough job of keeping that under control and making sure we shed the salary where we need to shed the salary and to get the young guys signed that we need to get signed. I think Danny's been doing a really great job at that. And that, to me, is what's been selling me so far on Danny as a GM, because that was what was the most important thing going into this offseason, more so than anything else, was keeping the young guys here. I don't know about you guys, though. How are you feeling on that?
I mean, we've basically been covering it the last couple of weeks here, Matty, with that, and I mean, I'm pretty sure that we're all, and I don't mean to speak for you guys, but I think we're all in pretty much just agreement that Danny has done a good job. You know, he went out and he secured the RFAs that he needed to secure, minus Morgan Frost, who still needs a contract. But outside of that, you bring Cam York back. Noah Cates is back. You bring back another couple other guys. You go out and you get some quality guys for the locker room. Are they going to be on the score sheet every night? No, but they're still going to be guys that you can rely on in the locker room, be voices, be guys for these younger guys to talk to on the bench. You know, like the Marc Staals, the Garnet Hathaway. Yeah, you're going to get a little grit out of Hathaway that you're not going to get from Staal, but Staal's just coming off a Stanley Cup run. Who better to put on a young defensive core than a guy who's not only been in the league forever, but a guy who's just coming off a Stanley Cup run. So I'm in full agreement. I think Danny's done a great job. I'm still waiting to see what he does with Morgan Frost here, because they need to get him back under contract. I think he's the last RFA that they have to worry about. And depending on how this contract goes, I'm not worried about the trades. None of these trades are going to always be pretty, especially in a rebuild.
Right.
You got to get draft picks, but let's see what he does with Morgan Frost.
Right. Big picture. That's the call. Big picture look here. Not so much about, oh, well, we lost that deal. It's like, did we, though? Big picture. By the way, Fish Sticks Islanders Nerd OK, thank you for subbing in, brother. And, hey, some Fish Sticks and Islanders hockey, man. That'd be interesting. It'd be a fun time to go back to the 90s.
A Mrs. Paul sighting.
And would we hate Hart in an Islanders jersey? Yes. I would hate Hart in any jersey but a Philadelphia jersey, honestly. Even if he was in a Sharks jersey, I'd still hate him. So it's like, no, God damn it, Hart, you're staying here.
Fortunately, I don't got to worry about that. You got Mackenzie Blackwood over there right now, so.
Right. We went and found the Devil's dumpster.
Go.
Oh, the Phils just got a hit.
Let's go, Bryce. Game-tying RBI double. Let's go, Bryce.
Yeah, it was 1-0, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
Not 1-1.
Yep.
One save for David Robertson, making his Marlins debut.
I'm sure that must please the Mets fan in the room here.
Nothing pleases me right now.
or me.
I mean, you're in the whole other league, so.
Yeah, well, we can't hit.
Right, neither can we.
It says, what about Crosby in a Fisherman colors? It'd be weird. Be very weird to see him in a non-Penguins jersey. Be very, very strange to see Crosby in any jersey.
I could see him in another team's jersey rounding out his career because, I mean, like at 35 years of age, I mean, still put up 93 points last season. You know what I mean? And like maybe if the Penguins want to move on, he goes on. You could maybe see it like one of the original six. You know, maybe like a Detroit, Chicago, if they're like one piece away after
Toronto.
their rebuild. But what's that?
Toronto
too. Yeah, I could easily see that based on. You know where he comes from.
They love him. Listen, they love him. They love him in Canada. You know that.
Well, I mean, of course they're gonna love him in Canada.
But there's just certain jerseys that he wouldn't look quite right in, and the Islanders is one of them. Like, you know what I mean? It'd be like, just those classic, like seeing a guy in another team's jersey just does not fit. You know. Like,
the Phillies just got a home run.
Let's go. Let's go. Nick Castellanos, baby.
So, as for the Crosby thing, I was just thinking of something really funny. What if Crosby did what Jágr did to the Penguins, where he wound up joining the Capitals? I would actually laugh my ass off if that happened. I'm like, oh my God, Crosby's on the Capitals now. I'm not gonna lie, I would die laughing at that, and I would have to watch like almost every game at that point. I gotta see what happens if the Penguins when they play the Capitals. I gotta watch now. I have to.
Well, they're always a fun watch anyway. Those two teams.
Right. They are. Let's see. Which jerseys would you guys bring back? I'll be honest with you. I'd bring the Fisherman jersey back. You want to know why? Because the Islanders actually kind of sucked when they had them. But on top of that as well, I'm just kidding. I had to do it. But, if I had to choose, I did like the space kind of sci-fi Penguins thing they had going on. That was a cool jersey they had back in the 90s and then the early 2000s. I did like the jersey that the Capitals had, where they had the eagle and they had sort of that bronze kind of teal look to them. I actually like those jerseys. I don't know how Capitals fans feel about them, but I actually thought they looked pretty cool back in the day. Back when they had to look gritty.
I think they like the. You remember the red, white, and blue white jersey?
Yeah, back when they had the Capitals logo and they had the stars on them.
When they used to have what's his name? Who was that Swedish guy that used to kill? They used to kill everybody. They used to kill the Rangers. I can't remember his name. Peter Bondra.
Oh yes, Bondra. Good old Peter Bondra.
Yeah. Oh boy, was he a pest. Every game, all I know is every game he played against the Rangers, he scored.
Yeah.
And Swoopy brings up a good one: the black and yellow jerseys of the Canucks. That was a good set of jersey, which I have a pennant of back here. Yeah,
I like the old Penguins jersey when it was blue.
Back when they really stunk.
Yeah, and the still absolute McDonald John Pronovo days.
Yeah,
when they had one line and the rest of the team was complete garbage.
Well, Fishstick's saying bring back the notorious Buffalo Slug and Florida Panthers doing a Miami Vice themed jersey. I kind of am fine with the Panthers doing a Miami Vice jersey. I mean, I think that's a rite of passage. If you're a team that's going to be based in the Miami area, you kind of have to do something Miami Vice. Just a little bit, don't you think?
I agree.
I think so.
Yeah. But the Buffalo Slug, the Buffalo Slug sucked. The Bulls had one. I think that might be the one you're thinking of. I hated that one. I dreaded seeing that logo because I knew it was going to be a pain in the ass to have to deal with the Sabres. But, again, they're starting to get back to that now, which is just wonderful news for me. But, It's just about right up there with the Devils getting better. It's like, thanks, guys. Just fuck me in the ass harder, why don't you? Anyway.
Yeah, I love those jerseys. I'd bring back that Buffalo Goat Head jersey. That was the red, white, and blue Capitals jersey. This is a horrible jersey too.
How about the Flyers with long pants?
Oh, yeah.
They did kind of bring those back.
They did. Yeah.
They look like they were out. They were like a, an old in a beer league when they used to wear those pants.
Yeah, they look like joggers.
I mean, they were good when they were good back then, but boy, I mean, they kind of look like they were just a bunch of old men out for a skate.
Well, to be fair, they did have a lot of the older bullies were still on the team when they were wearing those. So, I guess maybe you aren't too wrong when you say that.
They look like the ABA version of the NHL, like Jackie Moon style. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Goat heads.
I didn't get a chance to let you know. I think the Flyers are going to be okay. I think they're heading in the right direction. Just to get it out there from my perspective, I think that they've done a pretty good job getting rid of salary. And you're right. You guys are right about the salary cap. It was imperative for them to get rid of some of these contracts, regardless of the return. I mean, when the Rangers were rebuilding, they traded Marc Staal to the Red Wings, and they gave the Red Wings a second-round pick to take him. So at least when you traded Hayes, you didn't have to give up a draft pick for somebody to take him.
Right.
Okay.
Literally.
So, yeah, I mean,
that's fair. We had to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit.
There's certain things that you just have to understand. I mean, they did that to clear cap space. You guys need to do that to create cap space too, because you know what? You want to have a young team, but at the same time, when you get to a point where that young team, when some of those guys look like they're ready to break out, you'll have the money to grab a couple of stars, and then they'll raise. When the stars come, they'll raise their level of play because they'll be playing with stars, and that's how you build the team.
Right, and
so
plus also
the right way.
And plus, also by then too, the younger pups have developed a lot more, and they've got that killer instinct has now been a little bit honed in them, and what have you. So when you do bring in those star players, they're ready to play with them. They're not being carried by them either.
Exactly. That's the whole point. You don't want the stars to be taking the puck and passing it to each other and not passing it to them.
Right.
You don't want to have two great players passing the puck around while the other guy's sitting there and go, hey,
So wait a minute. Hold on. They're going to bring back the Flying V for the Canucks. They're going to bring back the ugly jerseys. I hope they do. Exactly. Those jerseys are spectacular. I still want to get one of those fuckers. I'm like, I gotta. It's the ugliest jersey that I've ever seen in my life. I gotta own one. I just have to.
I agreed with the Yotes fan over there. I was going to say the Kachinas would definitely want a jersey I would bring back. I would bring back the original Avalanche jersey with the Sasquatch foot. And I would bring back the original Mighty Ducks jersey. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I always liked that.
That was a cool looking jersey.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Those were the good times before Anaheim stopped being owned by Disney. So
I can't hate either way. They won a Stanley Cup after Disney owned them, so I can't really. The Somalis got them the championship.
It's got to be like the weirdest jersey though that they won in. Like in 2007 when they had the whole Anaheim Ducks spelled across and they had the gold kind of on the side. I'm like, those are some weird looking jerseys they had when they first left Disney. I think they got better as they went along with just the D and then the look they have now. That's a good look they got. The other ones though were strange looking jerseys they had.
Yeah, I prefer the webfoot logo over that one. I agree with you, Maddie. But hey, I don't care what the uniforms look like as long as they're competitive and they win championships.
Right.
A good jersey for the Coyotes.
What?
A picture of Wile E. Coyote on the front.
You know, the funny part is their AHL affiliate is the Phoenix Roadrunners, so that would just make it perfectly.
Are you serious?
Nope, that's their AHL affiliate, and that's actually a
Very
hard.
good. That's really good, actually. I like that.
That's a harken back to an old jersey. That's an old team from another league way back in the day. There used to be another Phoenix Roadrunners team, had a whole different color scheme and everything. But yeah, that's what the AHL's been doing. They've been on a big retro kick recently. Like Gary, the Phils just won. So
Big comeback.
that's big news for them. But let's see, what's Canucks Dork saying? Didn't the Rangers use their logo once on the jerseys? Yes, they did.
They were horrible.
They
were horrible. That was John Ferguson wanted to change things up because the Rangers missed the playoffs a couple of times in the mid '70s after Rattel and Gilbert and all those guys and Esposito and Park and that crew with Joachim. And after they all retired, they tried to have a new look, and after Ferguson got fired, it immediately went back to what they have now.
When the 80s rolled around.
I think when Shiro came to coach the Rangers, I think that he wanted the Rangers back in their normal jerseys. So they ditched that. They were horrible jerseys.
I will say I don't like the Rangers, but I do love their jersey design. It is a classic design with the Rangers written down. It'd be weird to see them wearing anything else. I just couldn't imagine it.
Yeah, the one thing that worked for me was the Statue of Liberty picture.
That did work.
That
worked
for me.
Yeah. That was a good one. Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's not a bad third option.
Right.
Third jersey.
Well, hell, during that time when they first brought it out, you guys had Still Mess and you had Gretzky on the team, so there you go. Yep. See, Mighty Ducks fan for life, 44 saying 2003, 2006 purple word mark Anaheim Mighty Ducks jerseys. Blah.
Then those were really bad, and their 30th anniversary jerseys are just absolutely horrible.
Actually, speaking of that, since we're talking about jerseys, having an opportunity to take a look at what the Flyers' New Jersey look is, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Did they really change their jerseys? Because I don't think they fucking did. It looks the exact same way that it did 5 minutes ago. It's just, it's a darker orange. I'm like, okay. Does that mean you changed your jersey? No, you just changed the tint of the orange. I'm like, when you said you were going to do a rebrand and a jersey change, that usually means you change the jersey. That's usually what that means. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They got the outline they got rid of the outline on the letters. I forgot about that too. I'm like, oh, great. So you made the numbers look like shit. It's like, good job, guys. You really know what you're doing. Oh, and you got rid of the nameplates.
They took a little bit of everything from the Flyers' history and put it all on one jersey. I actually don't hate them. They're nice.
I don't hate them, guys. I can't make an honest judgment because I never saw them.
I'm not a big fan of them, to be honest with you. I was like, Jesus, you guys are doing fine, with your jerseys up until now. Good job, boys. When you said rebrand, I thought you meant rebrand. Not, hey, let's just keep the same jersey and let's just change a few things. Thanks. Anyway, American Loyalist giving the $4.99 to us. Thank you very much, my man. Saying the Tanagers stole the Jets jersey, but remember that the time the Phillies were the Blue Jays in the 40s and should do a Blue Jays night against the Jays. Well, couldn't remember that because I wasn't alive in the 40s, but yes, historically there was a time where the Phillies were rebranded as the Blue Jays, and the fans hated it so badly that they immediately changed the name right back to the Phillies after a season. So,
wow, I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
That was something that I was scrolling through YouTube, and they had a history of the Phillies name, and they brought that up, that there was a rebrand, and it was 1 year where they were the Blue Jays, and they immediately went back to the Phillies because everyone hated that shit. So I was like, wow, okay. I mean, I don't think it would have changed the team's history all that much. They still probably would have been the most losingest team in baseball, but still.
No, that's a perfect name for that team.
Let's see. Eric Wisniewski saying Coyotes need to make a coyote holding a sign says "We suck as Coyotes" falls off a cliff. Oh my God!
With a little umbrella.
Yeah, with the little umbrella.
What about a little Acme? What about a little Acme insignia?
Yeah, right.
On the side.
Make that the shoulder patch. That'll be the shoulder patch. Will be Acme.
Pretty sure all of which is all copyrighted and trademarked and
have to be.
Stuff.
Have to be. See, Mighty Ducks for life 447. Rangers could be cool rebrand as the Liberty logo. Those jerseys have kept coming back. They have been.
Yeah, they keep they wear them every once in a while.
Yeah, I like the Lady Liberty logo too.
Yeah, they wear them once in a while. Just a couple of games usually a couple of home games. I like the white jersey what they had with the Liberty. That was nice.
Yeah,
but you don't see that.
What they did for the Stadium Series.
Yeah.
Oh, that was for the Stadium Series, not the reverse retro?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Teddy Dangerously saying, you know why this is the number one A2D show? Because it brings all different NHL fans. Those Statue of Liberty jerseys were lame for the Rangers. So Ted he was not a big fan of those. But
can't please everybody.
Right, can't please everyone. Although, Ted, I'm surprised, man, that you're not a fan of those because the Flyers did beat the Rangers a lot when they were wearing them. So
yeah, they were very good. Yeah, they were very good when they were wearing those jerseys. Those were some lean years. Signing 35-year-old free agents all the time and not making the playoffs.
Yeah,
the highest payroll in the league. That was just.
How many people?
A lot of fun.
How many people besides Brad out there knew that Pavel Bure was a New York Ranger at one point?
He actually played really well until he hurt his knee again.
Right.
He lasted till like the middle of December, and he was playing great, but then he inevitably, like he did on Vancouver, he hurt his knee, and that was it. His career was over.
Oof. That's a rough one. It's, I'm the only one losing sleep over the new uniforms. I'm not losing sleep over them. I just think that they're fucking dumb. And it's like, yeah, there's a stupid looking jersey, but you know what? Yeah, okay. Put me in the box for disliking a shitty jersey. It's on a shitty team, so you know what? I guess I can't complain too much.
It's not worse than the black jersey they have. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. Well, the black jerseys make them look big.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. They're trying to fool people. They're doing bear logic. If they make themselves look bigger, then the other team will be intimidated. That's what it is.
Well, again, the one thing that I do love about the new Flyers jerseys is they literally took a little piece of history of every part of this, every era of this organization, and put it on the jersey. It's literally every piece of that jersey is a piece of history. That's what I like about it.
I'm not against that. I just that I felt like, okay, we're going to do this cool, new, exciting look for the Flyers, and no, we absolutely didn't do that. So it's like, okay, all right, that, you kind of bait and switched me there a little bit, so I'm a little annoyed by that. But you know what? It is what it is. Thrashers Forever fans saying Thrashers jerseys are just cool looking. I like some of the Thrashers jerseys. They were pretty nice looking. It's a shame that they didn't draw fans. El Nordique saying we had the best jerseys in the East, the Nordiques. So the Nordiques had a classic look to them. It's a shame that they never got a chance to show off what their new logo was, which of course was the Husky and the Nordiques written underneath it. They've shown what the jerseys were going to look like. I'm like, you know what? That would have looked pretty cool, fitting in with the rest of the 90s during that time period. Yeah. Shame it never happened. Email Mike saying, what's weird, Montreal only has one good jersey. That's the Expo. So the Canadiens jerseys are bland.
Oh boy. I thought the white jerseys.
I don't know. I don't
pretty nice. The ones in the 60s and 70s.
I don't mind their home jersey. I think their home jersey looks kind of neat. I just wish that they would kind of have the white version of that jersey with the blue stripe. I kind of wish that would be their way to kind of match it, but I get why they do it. They do it to stay classic because that's how it's always been for the Canadiens for the longest time. But I think their home jerseys are fine, honestly. The only time I've ever really liked the Canadians look. I think their white jerseys look like crap, though, personally.
You never liked them? Yeah, I kind of like them.
I never was a big fan of the white jersey. I just thought, like, white jersey looks like everybody else. The red jersey, the home jersey, looks unique. It's like, okay, that's the Canadians' look. I totally get that. That's their thing. And anyone who tries to rip it off, it's like you just ripped off the Canadians. That's all you did. That's why I still hate the Floridas.
Back in the day, you could never do that.
Right. Let's see, Eric saying, what do you think of the Flyers doing Blazers jerseys for Winter Classic? Think it'd be cool? I'm fine with it, honestly. I mean, it's a part of Philadelphia hockey history for another league. But hey, Bernie played on that team, so there's that for it. Before he came back to the NHL and said, "Yeah, I'm going back to the Flyers because Toronto sucks, and also on top of it, I don't like this WHL because it's a shitty league," which it was. So, and let's see, Me Metal Mike saying most obscure Flyers player most fans forget about, Jeff Hackett. Yes, playing for the Flyers as a goaltender for a little while. He was just, I hate to say that he was kind of the fill-in guy for a period of time, but he kind of was just because he was on the team when the team sucked. It's a shame when that happens. You're a decent player, but you're on the team when they're shit. But anyway.
Didn't he end up with the Islanders and he had the same issue?
I think so.
Yeah.
Some guys are just unlucky that way. They're good players. They just wind up on shitty teams. There's just nothing you can do about that.
Exactly.
So let's see here. Moving on from the Flyers breakdown. Was there anything anybody wanted to add on to the Flyers breakdown, by the way? I know we got lost in the jersey talk.
No, I mean, I do want to highlight that I thought it was really strong how this team locked down all its restricted free agents and made it a priority to do so. I know Brian brought up that point, but I did want to reemphasize that. I think that was just as important as shedding some of these guys that have been either problematic for the system, don't fit the system, or too expensive for the system, and they were able to do both. But I think taking care of everything in-house, hopefully Morgan Frost follows. But if not, I like how they work from the center. You get a healthy Sean Couturier back for camp in time 100%, going in and being your frontline center. And then you have Noah Cates falling right behind him in that second, locking him up. It just builds for a team that can be competitive right away as they're rebuilding. And I think, that's what you want to do, right? You want to put quality on the ice, even when you're in a transitional phase. I feel you owe that to your fan base. And I think both Keith Jones and Danny Briere know that full outright.
Right. No, and I agree, actually. I mean, right now where they're at, they kind of understand where the Flyers are and what they need to do. And that's important. We need the GM, we need the staff to say, okay, listen, we know what we got to do. It's going to take a minute. It's not going to be overnight, but it's got to be done. And it's good to see that that's what we're getting. If anything, it's a breath of fresh air. It's like...
Well, catch wind of this, Maddie. I mean, you look at Left Wing Lock's projected lineup for the Flyers. Top line of Coots with Konechny and Atkinson. That doesn't sound too bad. Noah Cates with Farabee and Tippett on the second line. Frost, if he re-signs, with Allison and Tyson Forrester on that third line. And then your fourth line, maybe you put Scotty Lawton down there with Delorier and Hathaway. That's a tough, hard-working line. Defensively, I think, they'll be a little bit behind, losing Provorov. Yeah, it's going to leave a dent, but you have Cam York and Sanheim on the top pairing. Marc Staal you brought in with Risto on the second, and Sealer and Sean Walker on the third D pairing. That's where, you got to wait for some of your young pups to develop, as well as maybe some bottom six level, or actually probably top six level more forwards in the farm system. But you kind of like what is being put on the ice in the meantime.
At least they have a set lineup. With the forwards, their lineup is going to be pretty set. That's good because they're going to go out there and they're going to play. And you'll you're going to really get a chance to see who can play in this league and who can't play in this league. So then they can make their decision. They can make their decisions, over next year, with a lot of salary cap space, and they can fill in the blanks with the salary cap with free agents. And then that's really that's how you build a team.
Right.
Sure.
I
I'm just
mean,
talking long term as you get like a Mitch Koff developed through the system coming through, all the way up to guys that you drafted, with Forrester. I included him, but like a Zayd Wisdom, some of the other guys down there, like they had a really good, successful draft. I think they're, that's any indication of how well they'll do again next year too, probably with a decent draft pick. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of forward depth there, Brad. You're right. You're right.
That's not bad forwards. Here's a question for you guys. I keep hearing about this guy. I think his name is Fedotov, the goalie that's stuck in Russia.
Yeah.
What could somebody explain to me what's going on? Because I read something about that this morning. I was like, huh?
Well, I think Rob can, because Rob's been really keeping up tabs on Fedotov.
Yeah, well, basically it comes down to the KHL team is not letting him out of his contract and not letting him, even though he has a signed contract with the Flyers after they were drafted, right? It's more political nonsense that's coming through the Kremlin, and everybody is afraid of it's not just okay. He could come over and play, but what's going to happen to his family?
Oh, geez. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, geez.
So I mean, I think once political climates, hopefully this war comes to an end sooner than later, But the thing of it is, though, at any time, right? Okay, so we had Sean Couturier on loan with the KHL team as he furthers his conditioning, right? You kind of start scratching their back, and that can build up relations outside of what's going on in the world,
Right. Because I mean, they should try to. That should be kept separate.
Yeah. Sure.
That shouldn't have. It shouldn't, but I guess it does. Okay, that explains that. I just because maybe some of the fans out there might be wondering whatever happened to him.
Right. Part of the depth of the goaltending, people clamor for Hart to get traded. Well, maybe if we had Fedotov over here, maybe that there would have a little more steam to that. But you're familiar, Brad, with Panarin having to watch his mouth. Ovi having to watch his mouth too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, with that other situation, exactly.
Yeah, well, Aaron, when he said stuff about Putin, and then he missed about 10, 11 games, he had to hide because they were after him. And I think he rejoined the he was on the Lamb for a while, and then he finally rejoined the Rangers on a road trip, and he was staying in a different motel and everything. That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's a shame, but it's like it's a new form of the Soviet Union, really, at the end of the day, coming in and making it almost impossible for Russian players to really get themselves into the NHL and get themselves established, at least certain types of Russian players not being allowed to come over and play. So it's like, geez, the more history just finds a way to repeat itself every single time, no matter what you do. So besides that, obviously, since we're doing predictions, where do we see the Flyers division-wise? Do we see them dead last? Do we see them in 7th? I hate to say that that's where we're probably all going to wind up at, but how low do you think the Flyers are going to be in this division by the end of the season?
I have them in 6th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the way the roster's built up. If they can stay healthy, Coots stays healthy, Cam stays healthy, you're getting one of the best two-way players in hockey back. You're getting one of the best shutdown centers back. You're getting a guy with the shoot-first mentality and has great leadership and understands Tort's system really well in Cam Atkinson. If the lines wind up being anywhere close to what Rob was just predicting, this team can make some noise. They made noise last year. Everybody expected them to finish dead last. They didn't. They finished with what, the 7th pick in the draft?
Yeah.
I think this team is only going up from here. I think they hit their rock bottom. I don't think they're going to be any worse than they were. And like I said, if they can stay healthy, and they avoid the injury bug for the majority of the season, they will find consistency, they will find success, and they will not be as bad as people think. They're just not as bad as people actually think they are. Just last year, they just injury bugs, not having the roster
I
at
think they're
100% at any
an
point.
80 to 84 point team.
Where do I have them?
Well, let's see here. Me Metal Mike has his predictions. He's saying that for the Metro, he's got the Islanders in first place. He's got the Devils in second. He's got the Blue Jackets in third. He's got the Rangers fourth, and he has them as Rangers. And he's got the Capitals in fifth, and the Flyers sixth, and the Penguins seventh, and the Hurricanes eighth. Boy, the Hurricanes must really be drunk as shit going into this season. They're going to be dead last.
I don't see the Hurricane nosedive, but I do see the Penguins nosedive.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that because they're gonna. I just think when you're old like the Penguins are, injuries are inevitable, and running out of gas at the end of the season is inevitable too.
It's just how it works. It's the cycle of sports. It happens to every team that's had its great moments. It starts to decline at some point.
Father Time is undefeated, guys.
That it is. Let's see. Flyers won't be dead last because of Tort's coaching. And there is a lot to be said about that, yes. No, the Torts has done a pretty damn good job. I mean, yeah, he had his issues with D'Angelo, but he had his problems with D'Angelo before. So it wasn't like this was unheard of.
Everybody has problems with D'Angelo. D'Angelo is a kook.
And he also had his problems with Hayes, which, again, stems back for his time as a Ranger.
And I told you guys, what did I tell you guys about him? He's a lazy guy. He's a lazy player. Of course, Tortorella is going to have his problems with him.
Right.
Tortorella doesn't like players that are lazy. Tortorella wants guys that he wants guys that are overachievers, like Brandon Dubinsky. That was a classic Tortorella player. Ryan Callahan. Those were the kind of guys that he loved. He loved Marc Staal too. I'm not surprised they brought him back. Marc Staal's going to go out there and block shots and lead by example. And you know what? They're going to definitely be in a better place with him.
Ted saying you're losing your best D man. I mean, Provy being gone, I'll say this now. I think Provy really did need to leave the Flyers. He needed to go someplace else. And if he does well, I'm not even going to be mad. It's like, you know what? It just proves the point. He really needed to get out of Philly. It was killing him at the end of the day. That he needed to go someplace else in order for him to find what he needed to do to up his game. And honestly, bringing in on side of that, you were bringing up Marc Staal there, Brad. Stahl's going to be good for guys like Cam York and for other young players on the defensive side of the puck that are going to have an opportunity to learn from him, who's worked with John Tortorella before and during the time when the Rangers were a competitive team with Tortorella. So he knows what it's like in the big critical situations. So I think that would be better for the younger players. I mean, definitely would be better than Yandel.
Staal, for all his deficiencies at this late part of his career, I mean, he was always Captain Courageous. He always played a tough game, even though he had those concussions, even though he got hit in the eye, even though his brother almost killed him one time, and he missed all those games because of a concussion. I mean, Marc Staal, one thing I would say about him, he was fearless and he was tough and he blocked a lot of shots and was a big-time leader on that Ranger defense in 2013, 2014 when they went to the Stanley Cup Finals. So, you know what? To have a guy like that on your team who can still play a little bit, I think that's going to be really, really important to your defenseman. And I think you'll see him out there killing penalties because he's a very smart player and he knows how to get the puck out of the zone and what to do. I mean, he can be a bit of a parking cone, but you know what? He's the kind of guy who he's not going to start a play. He's not a passer. He's not going to create offense, but you know what? He's the kind of guy that he's a stay-at-home defenseman, and they're gonna learn just by how he takes the man and doesn't go for the puck and takes care of the guy so that the puck is loose and the teammate can get the puck and start a rush. And that's how Tortorella coaches too. He likes that. That's what Tortorella wants.
Right.
No puck watching. Go get the guys and knock them down and get the puck.
Right. So there's that added side to it as well. For me, I'm going to say the Flyers, where I see them finishing, I will say they will finish I'm going to say 7th. But it will be like very closely contested, if I could say that, closely contested when you get that low. But I think it would be like they're swapping in between 6th and 7th. So it's not that they're terrible or anything like that in terms of that regard of it. I just think that they'll wind up in 7th place instead of 6th place, but it'll be like by like a point. That they'll be close enough with the other team to where they're flip-flopping half the time, basically. Thoughts on the Erik Karlsson situation? Well, been waiting to hear about the trade. All I've heard about is that the Penguins just recently greenlit the possibility of a trade happening between them and Karlsson, but nothing's come through. Nothing at all. And the major problem is Karlsson's got a nasty contract that you got to deal with. On top of that as well, what are you going to give up to get Karlsson onto your team? And for the Penguins, it's one of those where this is clearly a Hail Mary, where they're trying to stay competitive in the division. It's not like you're a young team that's trying to develop and you're just taking a bad contract because fuck it, you can. It's just... This is the Penguins desperately trying to stay competitive in a division that is
Passing the button.
Yeah, basically. And that's what they're trying to do. You know, if it winds up happening, it happens. If it doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised because they can't seem to make the money work out. It's the problem with the salary cap. It's a bitch. You get a nasty contract like that Karlsson has, it's hard to move it. Even if a team's planning on retaining some salary, that contract is still nasty. I mean,
he makes 14 a year, doesn't he?
About that. I mean, hell,
14. That's. I mean, even if you retain $7 million, that's still $7 million.
Right,
and if the Sharks are gonna retain $7 million, man, you're gonna have to give up a lot.
Right. So that's the big problem with the deal. That's what's been killing it. And I knew the moment that it's just like, it's like the Sharks, I hate to say this, but it's like the only real route you're getting rid of Karlsson's contract is a buyout. Like, it's hard to justify a team that's in a competitive position that's already trying to stay competitive and is up at the cap ceiling to try and say, well, what the hell are we going to give up to justify bringing in Erik Karlsson if we're bringing in if we're giving up players that are really important players to the team right now? It's hard to justify that. And I'm not saying that Erik Karlsson's a bad player. He's not. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you're giving up a lot to get one player. That could sometimes kill your team way faster than you making the deal and biting the bullet on a team that desperately needs a player like him. And that's the tricky situation of the salary cap, staying competitive. What are you willing to give up and what are you not willing to give up right now in the landscape of the NHL? So that's the problem they're running into with the Karlsson trade is the cap and the length of the contract and the size of the contract. That's been the biggest problem for the Sharks in getting rid of it. I understand why they want to get rid of it, but it's easier said than done. Like, go ahead, try to get rid of it. How many GMs are going to be able to pull this off?
Not many.
It's a tough situation.
Right.
Next year,
11 and a half. It's
Next
11 and a
year,
half over the next 5 years.
Right.
Sharks already have one buyout or two buyouts, so they can't use a buyout on him.
Okay, so that's right. They did use that, yeah.
They've already retained money on the Brent Burns deal when he went to Carolina. So it's gonna be and he's got a full no movement clause. So any of these teams that are in on him, he may veto the trade anyway.
Right.
So they got to make it count. Like, it's a tricky situation, but I don't see Erik Karlsson going anywhere.
It's hard,
More because of the CBA than the cap.
Right. It's a tough situation to be in. If you're the Sharks, you want to get rid of this deal, but it's like, kind of made it unmovable. You really kind of did that. I mean, I know Flyers fans bitched and complained about the Hayes deal. Imagine being a Sharks fan having to deal with the Karlsson deal. It's like, Jesus, that's even worse to swallow.
Oh, the worst one was the Shea Weber deal.
Oh yeah, that one was
Flyers
bad.
caused. The Flyers caused that.
They did. The Flyers literally lit the match for the chaos that was about to unfold in Nashville.
Yeah. The Flyers are the ones that brought Nashville down, really.
I mean, I don't really agree with that because I think Erik Karlsson's getting back to being the player that he once was, and I think he's shown his worth as not just a top tier defenseman in the league, but a top 5 defenseman in the league. He's getting back to his form, so he's worth the money. It's just going to be a matter of if he can find somebody with potentially rebuilding team that needs a defenseman that has a cap space. Like that's the tough part, especially with everything going on after COVID now.
Right.
You know, everything's slowly starting to get back to normal, where it's going to be easier to move guys like him and not have to worry
you
about.
might see it. I think you might see him go with the trade deadline when teams have cap space to make moves like that. And next season, you know, the rumor is that the cap is going to go up by $3 million.
Right.
So I think that's when you might see it, because next year you'll have the cap space, and you know, towards the end of the season, a lot of teams have more cap space because I don't know the mathematical formula that they use, but you know, when the games played, they change. It changes.
What surprises me is that some teams weren't in on it. Some teams that I would say, okay, that would kind of somewhat make sense for them to be there. But then I realized, you know what? Okay, I see what they're doing. Like, for example, say the Sabres. I thought maybe the Sabres might be in on Karlsson because they could use to have him on defense. But then I realized, oh, wait a minute. But what about their young players that they have on the team?
They can't do that.
Yeah. Then I realized, that wouldn't work for them. Plus, also, they just got rid of Jack Eichel. I don't think the Sabres are real interested on taking on a big contract for a big name right now.
No,
I think the organization's trying to avoid it altogether.
They're going to have to pay Big Tage pretty soon, too.
Right. So they got some big situations coming up for them. So that would be one of those teams to be a little rough one. At least says that you're welcome, San Jose. Sure sounds like no thanks. And honestly, you know what? This is what happens when you go on a magic run like the Sharks did and you buy into it and you said, you know what? Maybe this team still got some gas left in the tank, not reading the writing on the wall and realized, 2019 was kind of a fluke. This team is kind of not in the position to compete anymore. Unfortunately, that's just how it works sometimes. You buy into some bullshit and chaos ensues. Boy, don't the Flyers know something about that. Hello, 2010. We still remember you very fondly. Anyway.
Did Robbie give his prediction for the Flyers in the standings yet?
I don't think so. I don't think Brad or Rob. So both of you gentlemen, go right on ahead.
Go ahead, Rob.
If everything goes right, and what I mean by that is that you get a full 82 games or close to it for Sean Couturier and Cam Atkinson. You have TK reaching the 30-goal plateau. I think this team can finish in as high as 6th place in this division. Maybe even creep into the 5th and and then fade out.
That'd be hard.
But it could also go the other way really quickly. So I'm going to stem the tide. I'm going to agree with you, Matty. I think they finished 7th in this division.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, then. It's good to be on the same page with somebody.
Well, yeah. I mean, because Sean Couturier's back has a lot to prove. The player doesn't have a lot to prove. The back does.
Right. You sat out the whole season, and now it's okay. Are you good? Are you healed? The one negative thing about Couturier's career has been he has had a lot of injury problems in his time, which sad.
So let's say he gets in right, and let's say he gets in the camp, right, and he looks good, and he's playing with the boys, and then all of a sudden, bam, he goes down again. Or you go a couple games into the season, and bam, he goes down again, and he's out for a couple of months. Do you still think this team could finish in 6th place in this division? Because I don't. I think you need Sean Couturier for it to just be a competitive team. Otherwise, you just have a lot of young guys with a lot to prove.
Right. I mean,
yeah, it's fair.
It's tough because you would be losing. Not only would you be losing a great player in Couturier, but he's supposed to be a leader on the team too. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there aren't players that stepped up last year and tried to be leaders. I mean, obviously Lawton was one of those guys. You also had some of the younger players trying to kind of ante up and do big things. Guys like Owen Tippett and what have you. We're really trying to lead the way there, which is why we love him for that. But, it's tough when you got somebody like Coots who's supposed to be the guy, which is what the Flyers are hoping he is. And if he suffers another injury and another setback, it could be one of those things where, like, I don't know, man. It's like, I just don't know. It's like, love the guy, love his work ethic, but goddamn, man, he just keeps getting hurt.
Well, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer over here. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be Mr. Pessimistic, Negadelphia, but, we've seen this story happen.
No, and sadly we have. And it's happened not just on the Flyers, it's happened on many teams. How many great players that are really good players, they just suffered injuries and it gave them consistent setbacks year in and year out. Where it's just like
LaFontaine, remember him?
Right. Perfect example. Yeah, just injuries. It sadly happens, and even worse with LaFontaine in his era of playing hockey. So it's just one of those things. So Brad, where did you have the Flyers finishing up, being from the outside perspective on the Rangers side of things?
I think they're going to come in sixth.
Okay,
I think they're going to come in sixth. I think that they're as long as they get their power play going, and I think they can with the first line that they have. I think they're going to score enough goals this year. I think last year scoring goals was a big problem. I don't think it's going to be as big a problem this year. I think a lot of these guys are going to be on the same page. You got rid of some of the guys who like puck hogs, like Hayes, who's gone now, and I just think you're going to be in a better position now. And they're young. They're gonna have a lot of speed. I think especially early in the year, they're going to catch a lot of teams by surprise. I'm not sold on Columbus. I do think the Penguins are going to be in big trouble. And I think part of the problem with the Penguins is Tristan Jarry is always getting hurt. And they just signed him to big money. Okay?
Yeah.
It's Tristan Jarry. And now listen, I have nothing against Casey DeSmith. I think he's a fine backup goaltender. Okay? But you just know Tristan Jarry's going to get hurt again. It's in his DNA. He always gets hurt. And, Jake Getzel, as good as he is, he's another one that's always getting hurt. And Crosby's old. How many games is he going to play? How many games is Malcolm going to play? How many games is Letang going to play?
Right.
And last year, really, towards the end of the season, I mean, they just literally they just said to Florida, here, you want to get into the playoffs? Here you go, guys. They lost some terrible games towards the end of the season. I mean, they went to Madison Square Garden in a must-win game against a complacent Ranger team, which really wasn't playing for much other than maybe they could catch New Jersey, but they knew they weren't, and they lost 7-0 to them.
That was, I think, wasn't that the game that was the ultimate sign of, this Penguins team's not making it, because it was just like they just lost the game they should have won against the Rangers team that didn't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they were just trying to get Kane and Tarasenko involved on the team, and they weren't playing all that well towards the end of the season. And they beat them 7-0.
Well, I think the Rangers had to be thinking, it's like, holy shit, you guys really are bad. Like, we weren't even trying, and we beat you guys 7-0. Good God.
Exactly, and that's I see that happening again to that team, because I think you're gonna have spots next year where DeSmith is going to be in goal for for 2 or 3 weeks. Crosby's going to be on the shelf. Letang's going to be on the shelf. Malkin, God only knows how many games he's going to play. Getzel's always getting hurt again, and you're going to have DeSmith. DeSmith is one of the goalies playing most of the games. I think Pittsburgh it's too much to expect them to do well next year. I think next year is finally the year that they not only lose but just completely where everything just goes right down the tubes. And, maybe they get lucky and they can beat out Washington for 6th. Because Washington isn't exactly young either. They had a ton of injuries last year. Their goaltending is, in my opinion, is pretty questionable. That goaltending move that they made to bring in Kemper, that didn't work too well. I mean, how'd that work out for them? not all that good. And Carlson is old, and Carlson's old. He had a very severe injury last year. Wilson missed 3/4 of the season last year because he was hurt. Backstrom's back. Who knows? I mean, those two teams, I could see those two teams coming 7th and 8th. The Flyers coming in 6th, Columbus coming in 5th. And then you move up to the Islanders, Rangers, Devils and Hurricanes, all those teams. It could easily happen. The key to the Flyers is they just need Couturier and Atkinson to play a lot of the games.
Right.
And I think Torts will be smart with them too. He won't make them play every game either. I think he'll sit them every once in a while, just to manage them so that they so that they stay fresh and they're able to hang in there all season.
Teddy Dangerous is saying, what were you gonna say, Rob?
Let me just say this in response to Brad. If the Flyers finish ahead of the Penguins and Capitals, even if it's in 6th place, it'll feel like we won the cup.
Listen, it could happen because you know what? Your team's going to be healthy and playing all season. Okay. I don't think that the Flyers. I don't think that the Capitals and Penguins are going to. I think they're really slow now, and I don't think they're going to be healthy. You guys have seen it a million times. Old teams in hockey, okay, when you have too many 30-year-old players, they get hurt.
Now, fun fact, too, it'd be the first time the Flyers have been ahead of the Penguins in the standings since the bubble. So,
listen, it could happen. And you know what? You'll have a lot of fans in the Metropolitan Division laughing their butts off, watching the Penguins and Capitals struggle because we all hate them, and we wish nothing but the worst for those teams.
Correction. I hated the Penguins. I really didn't hate the Capitals because I actually felt bad for them because every time they'd face the Penguins would beat them. And be like, God, you guys, man, every fucking time you face Crosby, he fucking kills you. Like, what is the problem? They put dream teams together and they still couldn't beat the fuckers. I'm like, God damn, are you guys just never going to win anything ever?
That was the enjoyment of watching the Capitals lose. First of all, Scott Stevens played for them, which immediately made me hate them.
Well,
understand Scott Stevens. That was part of it, and I could never stand that team.
But here's the thing:
Tom Wilson was the clincher.
Tom Wilson's a dick, but at the same time, though, Scott Stevens, I missed that period with him with the Capitals. I got to deal with him when he was a Devil, so I missed that period. So I just associate him with the Devils and how much of a piece of shit that franchise is. So there you go on that one.
Yeah, I couldn't stand him when he was with the Capitals.
Eric Hextall is not with the team anymore. They fired his ass very quickly when they realized, holy shit, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And unfortunately, actually, I think someone made a joke that Hextall was a sleeper agent that the Flyers sent over to the Penguins to fuck him up. So,
well done, soldier.
There you go.
Talk about taking one for the team. Holy shit, that's one right there.
Hey, Rob, you'll remember this. You remember when Ramiro Mendoza pitched for the Yankees, and then he got signed as a free agent by the Red Sox, and he was horrible. He couldn't get anybody out and lost like 7 or 8 games for them. Yeah. Like in the first half of the season, I think they ended up cutting him. Yeah. Okay, that was always an accusation that he was a double agent.
Yeah, because didn't he eventually come back and pitch for the Yankees again?
That I don't remember. I could be
wrong.
I just remember that. Yeah, I don't know that he did, but I just remember when he signed with the Red Sox, he was so bad. I mean, that sinker stopped sinking, and he just got destroyed.
Eileen, you have a pleasant evening. And yes, it's always okay to say that Crosby is a pussy. It's a very natural thing. It just feels good you're rolling off the tongue.
Yeah.
Not only is he a pussy, he's now an old crusty pussy too.
Yeah.
Flaky as shit. Let's see here. Eric saying, damn, Hextall couldn't hold on for one more season. Nope. That's how bad he fucked the Penguins up. So bad. To be fair, they were already on the decline. He just accelerated the process. Oh, let's see. Email like saying, heard rumors Fleury might be retiring. Really? Interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if he does, good for him. I mean, he's had one hell of a career. Nothing to really get upset about there. I know Quick said he's coming back for another year. I'm like, really? You just won your third cup and you didn't have to do anything. It's like, are you really sure you want to come back?
Well, he's going to actually have to do something this year because Shesterkin can't play every game.
Well, that's true.
I mean, he's probably gonna get probably 20 to 25 games, the same way Halak did.
Yeah.
But do players who don't get much to any playing time consider it a cup one? You know what I mean? Like, I think he still has something to play for.
I mean, yeah, okay, that is a good point. I'm sure he is very happy with accepting the ring, but I'm sure he kind of feels like, yeah, this is the ring I got for not doing anything. The other two are the important ones.
The mentor ring.
He'll earn it. He'll earn it if the Rangers get to that point.
Right.
He's gonna have to play. He's gonna have to play some big games. You know that.
Right. Hey, maybe he'll be the one that gets the Rangers past the Devils. If that does happen, I'm going to laugh my ass off. Be like, ha! See, this is what it is.
I think Blake Wheeler. Quite honestly, I think he's going to be the difference. I mean, the guy's a natural-born leader. He's tough. He's a right-handed shot, which they really needed on that. Which they really needed a right wing. But it's shot right-handed. So I think that was a huge pickup.
But wouldn't it be something though? Like, you get a Kira Schmidt who somehow, some way is still starting for the Devils back in a playoff series with the Rangers, and Johnny Quick is there because, I don't know, Shesterkin accidentally tripped coming out of the bathtub, and so he's out for the series, comes back the next round. But so both guys are here, and Quick, who everybody's saying, he's washed up, he got nothing left in him, beats this USHL. See, you got to beat bullshit with other bullshit. That's how it's got to work. There's no other excuse. That's how hockey is.
Well, don't forget the Rangers goaltending coach, who's Benoit Lair. He's really good.
Right.
I mean, he's made a lot of. Look at Lundqvist. He's a classic example, but he's made a lot of goalies that ended up playing for the Rangers played real well for the Rangers, and then when they left the Rangers, they never really were as good. Like Cam Talbot, a classic example. You know, he's one that I can think of right off the top of my head. But a lot of Lundqvist's backups, if you take a look at it, were really, really good when they were with the Rangers. But then when they got their chances on other teams,
right?
Antti Ranta is a classic example. What was he before he was the Rangers' backup goalie? He was not good at all. When he went there, he suddenly became really good.
Was he on the Blackhawks before he went to the Rangers?
Yeah, he was. He was.
Thought so.
Yeah, he was a backup there too. But I mean, he played a lot better when he was with the Rangers, and now look at him. You know, now he's with the Carolina Hurricanes, and he's pretty good. That's why I'm thinking, you know, Quick, it may not hurt him to be with the Rangers because this guy Benoit Lair is a very good coach, and he'll probably get the most out of him. Halak played pretty well last year after the first 6 games, you know, and he was really bad, and everybody said he was over the hill. I thought he played pretty well as a backup last year.
Meanwhile, am I saying, but yeah, can we agree Crosby and Brady are crybabies when it comes to games not going their way? I mean, I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah.
Who's going to argue that?
That's a fact. 100% fact.
What would Tom Brady look like playing for the Rangers? Talking to the ref every 5 minutes about a missed call.
Crying to the ref. Could you imagine every time somebody checked him, or if he got cross-checked in front of the net, he'd turn around and say, hey, he'd be dropping his stick and looking at the referee. Hey, what was that?
All right, so let's see here. Time for us to move forward. For everybody who's been throwing out the comments, making this show as lively as you guys always do, thank you very much. The fam out there on A2D Radio. You guys all your comments sponsored by Gleason's Bar, located at 6700 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, Pennsylvania. You can use the promo code A2D for 10% off your order whenever you go to dine in, take out, or you go online at gleasonsbarandsteaks.com. Great food there, so definitely check them out and get yourself something good to eat and sit down and watch your favorite sports right before the day's out. That's always a good time. And yes, hit like and subscribe for A2D Radio. Listen, we've got great shows, not just for hockey here. We've got wrestling within this very ring. We've also, of course, got many other great shows for like A2D Radio. Of course, Agree to Disagree, the fun and the just the insanity that sometimes plays out on Agree to Disagree is hard to describe. But
how about all the ex-athletes that we have now?
Oh, yes. Plenty of them as well. I mean, we've been growing so much as a platform in the last few months alone that it is shocking on that. But, Bri, I believe you have the best rundown for the shows, and I think that you should do the honors here of just telling the fam out there just what we got here on A2D Radio.
Where do we start? What day you want to start on? Sunday we got the
go down to Sunday all the way through Saturday. Go through the whole week for the people.
Sunday we got A2D. We were kicking off Sunday mornings with the Money Pot podcast, getting you ready for NFL Sundays when it's NFL season, getting you ready to make some money. Then you got A2D. You got Agree to Disagree, breaking everything down after the day is said and done. Mondays you got Brad on the Sports Hounds. You got sometimes we got Rob Ellis, but Rob Ellis is usually Tuesday morning. You got the new show Rivals, which is one of our late night shows on Monday nights. I know I'm missing one on Monday, and I can't remember which one it is, and I apologize. Pandemonium. That's it.
Yes, we always get kicked off.
I gotta figure out.
We have our boy Doug Minkavich, a former Major League Baseball player, on with us every week.
Yeah, I got to figure out who I'm facing on Pandemonium. I missed who won. I got to face the winner of Ralphie and Butters. And I think my matchup is August 7th, I believe. I have to double check that, but I believe it's August 7th. Tuesdays, you got us. You got Rob Ellis typically on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, you got A2D Wednesday night with pretty much more than half of the guys that work for A2D. Thursdays is our NFL Eagles Thursday. You got Bowen with the Birds. You got Vetted with Irving Fryer and Hollis Thomas. You got Marcus Thomas on Pro Fam Talk. You got the boys of the Birds of a Feather. Friday, what do we have Friday?
Don't you have the New York kids?
No, they were Tuesdays. I think they're on hiatus right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're talking about Brandon and Ryan. I think they're on hiatus right now. I'm not sure what's up with them, but yeah, I mean, we got shows for everybody. You got Saturday nights. You got in this very ring. You know, if you're a wrestling fan, you know, every once in a while, Chrome will absolutely crush an interview with somebody for lazy booking. Just absolutely dominated that Tyler Breeze interview. That's literally been picked up just about everywhere that you can find any kind of wrestling article. So you literally something for everybody here at A2D Radio every night of the week.
Right. That's what we got, man. We got everything for you guys here on A2D Radio. All right, then. And on to our second period sponsor, which is All Campus OC. In case you are in New Jersey and you want to head on down to Ocean City, John Coyle, he's got the nice shop down there that's got all the team sports, that's got all the cool stuff out there for you. You get a nice little discount along with it. You get the discount that's 20% off of everything in the store, including hats, shirts, and what have you, to all subscribers. So when you get subscribed up, you can get yourself a nice little discount and wear your team colors and maybe head on out to the beach and enjoy yourself a little bit down there in Ocean City. Say hi to John, too. All right. And I do believe we have a commercial to run. Do we not, Bri?
Yeah, just give me 1 second here. I got to text Ralphie real quick.
All right, then. Okay.
Made a little boo-boo.
No problem. So while we do... What?
I got something we could talk about real quick. Well, not like like hockey matter, but
Go right
just
ahead.
throwing in on our show rundown. There was a show that I was perseverating on in terms of for Friday. Isn't that the day that Les Bowen is on? With Bowen on the Birds.
Yep, Thursday at 3:00, I believe.
Oh, that's a Thursday show. Oh, okay. I thought that was Friday. Okay, my bad.
No, you're good. You're good. Appreciate you having my bet.
No problem, man. I'm looking through. I'm scrolling through all. It's like it's just, Maddie. Man. We've been at this since day one.
Yeah.
And just to see, like, it brings a tear to my eye. Like, I don't even really care if I ever, like Ted saying that, oh, you got to pay these guys, are the best show on A2D. I don't care if I see one red cent, right? Just seeing what this has become and just still being a part of it from beginning till now is just such a huge honor. I love being on with you boys every week.
Hell yeah, man. And yeah, to second that, it's great to see the growth. It really is. And to add new members to the fam, it's always a fun time.
I mean, think about where we were back then.
We've been there for
right.
We've been there now for I think Rob and I joined 2017. So
yeah,
we've been here for 6 years now.
I just saw a memory of you guys when we were filming in the garage. Rob, I think that was right when you first started. Yeah.
Yeah.
The garage, the basement days when I was actually producing.
Right.
Like actually producing.
I still remember the time when friggin' Tom threw a headset. One of the hosts live on the air.
Zach.
It was Zach, yeah.
It was Zach.
They got into an argument over Donovan McNabb, which was the funniest part of it. And they
Did
got
he
into an
call-
argument over Donovan like throwing up, and so eventually Tom just lost it. He threw a headset at him and left.
I thought it was over Dante Culpepper. I think he was saying Dante Culpepper was better than Donovan McNabb or something. Like
I think it was something of that nature. Either way, it was funny as hell.
That's a pretty good comparison, though.
What people don't know too, because this didn't happen live on the air, but there was a meet a couple of weeks later. There was a production meet, and Zach and Tom got into an argument again, and Rob, who was standing right next to me, grabbed the headset that was right in front of Tom and pulled it away because he thought Tom was going to throw another headset at him.
It's kind of like,
yeah.
I think I remember that. I think that was after I started.
That was the funniest thing. That shit was hilarious.
Yeah,
anyway, so
okay, let me cue up that commercial real quick here.
All right, go right ahead.
Just give me a second here. Nee. All right, whenever you're ready, Maddie.
All right then. So here's a commercial for the Philly sports tour. Was it? Sorry.
Sports trips. You're good.
Philly sports trips. Thank you.
No, you're good. We'll be right back.
Hey, Birds fans, the NFL schedule has arrived and Philly Sports Trips has all the details now. Visit the site phillysportstrips.com. This is sure to be an epic season. Be sure to go there now to make sure that you don't get shut out. Join us in Tampa, LA, Seattle, or when we get revenge in Kansas City. Don't want to fly? No problem. Gather up your crew and hop aboard one of our signature boisterous bus trips to DC or New York. Sign up now and make sure to mention A2D. Don't miss out on the best Philly fan experience anywhere. Philly Sports Trip customers always stay at the best hotels and meet NFL legends. Book today.
All right, yeah. Philly Sports Trips, Philadelphia 5 for 5 Sports Travel Company, premium travel tailgating experience for the passionate fans of Philadelphia. All you got to do is go to phillysportstrips.com and book yourself a spot. And hey, listen, what's better than going to the game, tailgating with your fellow Eagles fans and preparing for them to take on whomever you're going to go see them take on, whether it be the Seahawks, whether it be the Chiefs in that big rematch from the Super Bowl. All to say you get to be there with your brethren and you get to cheer and scream for the Eagles, probably more on the screaming side. And, you get to bring a little bit of Philadelphia to whatever place you're heading to. God help the fans of that rival team.
I could see it being a real good season for the Eagles. You guys know that I'm an editor for a fantasy sports site, and I've been doing a lot of their draft guide, and Eagles players are just showing up at every position, everywhere. IDP, team defenses, obviously people are on Jalen Hurts this year for their quarterback, but I mean, all the way down for DeAndre Swift being like a value play, also, the wide receiver core that they put together. So it's kind of hard to imagine. I it wouldn't be hard to not imagine them getting back to the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, I would agree with you. They're stacked.
Yeah.
There's really nobody. If they were in the AFC, it would be a lot more fun because they'd have a lot of competition. But the NFC, there's nobody there that's really good. I don't see anybody there that's really going to give them too difficult a time. It's certainly not the Cowboys, even though their fans want to talk a lot of crap. They're unfortunately for them, they're delusional.
Yeah, Eagles will split them like they always do.
Yeah. Exactly.
Eagles will beat them in Dallas, and they'll beat us in Philly. So that's
right. And then when they get to the playoffs, the Cowboys will lose in an early round and not ever get to see the Eagles. So they won't even have to worry about getting humiliated by the Eagles in the playoffs because they never get there. They can never get that far to play them.
Sorry, Rob, but I still have to bring this up. I thought it was the funniest thing in the world when they got eliminated in the last time. With that whole snap thing, I thought that was hilarious how that went down. Like, really? So the Cowboys lost because of some type of bullshit with the ball not being in the right place.
I don't think it would be a playoffs without that happening.
I just thought that was funny as shit when I saw that happen.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I don't see them getting much better. I mean, you bring in Brandon Cooks to be your wide receiver too. You can't be really too confident with that. I mean, you can blanket coverage CeeDee Lamb, and then you got to expect
100 years old.
Who is that? Brandon Cooks? Absolutely, he's 100 years old. That's what I'm saying. As your wide receiver too, but then you have Dak.
He's almost as old as me.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. Nobody's as old as me, but pretty old.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I think CeeDee Lamb gets like double covered almost every play. And then it's like, if Dak has to win you the game, that's when you see those interceptions pick up. That's when you see, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just guys that have all the talent in the world, but, you can't perform in crunch time. I'm seeing that out of Dak. And I mean, it's unfortunate because, he started as a really, really late, I think it was like a 5th, 6th round draft pick, and it was the same draft as Carson Wentz when he was drafted. And the talk was, Carson Wentz is way better, right? I was like, I always said long-term, Dak, I could see his skills translating better for the NFL. And lo and behold, he's still employed and Carson Wentz is not. But he's still not that clutch guy. You know what I mean? He's the guy that folds under the pressure. And now the Cowboys have had 2 of them. The Cowboys have had 2 of them in a row now with him and Tony Romo.
He's only clutch when he's playing bad teams.
Right.
By the way, what's up, Wills? And depressed Oilers fans saying, "What's your Pacific and Central Division predictions?" Well, we'll definitely talk about the Pacific and the Central Division as we get further along into our division previews. Yeah. But Oilers fan does go on to throw out his Pacific Division, saying that he believes first will be Vegas, second will be Edmonton, third would be Seattle, fourth is Vancouver, and then fourth is LA. That's why he stopped right there. He realized, no, not Vancouver. He meant LA.
Okay.
And then fifth, Vancouver, sixth, Anaheim, and seventh, San Jose. So,
okay.
And Calgary's eighth. So,
I don't think Calgary's going to be that bad.
I think that's the Oilers fan talking in him.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. I forgot. Yeah. Okay.
And then, let's see, Central Division, Dallas, Colorado, Minnesota, Nashville, Winnipeg, Chicago, and Arizona.
I agree with everything except I think that Colorado is going to win the division this time.
I think Colorado,
They had so many injuries last year. They just never really could get it going.
I
mean, McCarr's not going to miss so many games again this year as he did last year.
I don't know. If I'm in the West, Colorado still scares me. It's like, sure, they got eliminated in a weird way last year, but you know what? That just usually breeds the worst. Usually that means they're going to shit on everybody next year. That's what that usually means.
Yeah, they also lost McKinnon for like 3/4 of the season.
Right.
I mean, they had an unbelievable amount of injuries last year.
Nothing against Dallas, though. Dallas is a very good team and deserves that recognition. But I don't know. Colorado's still they're still a pretty scary team.
Yeah, they're dangerous.
Anyway, so on to our second period topic. We talked about the Flyers and where they're at. So now the poll question talked about the Devils. The Devils, obviously, like I said before, last year they beat the Rangers in the first round. They got absolutely pummeled by the Carolina Hurricanes in the second round. So even though they had a disappointing end, really nothing to be upset about if you're the Devils, considering the fact that you hadn't made the playoffs in a long time. So now that there's some expectation, some real heavy expectations on the Devils, what do you think is going to be like the key element to their success? Obviously, there's a lot of talk about their goaltending. That's some people are saying it's suspicious, a little sus. And then on top of that as well, you also have the big acquisitions in Timo Meier, how that's going to help kind of elevate and sort of even out play and make things better for the Devils in terms of scoring. The young players that have stepped up, obviously Hughes being one of the major ones. What do you think about the Devils here going into this year? We talked about them taking the division title possibly. How do you see them finishing, and how do you see the season going, and do you see them making a run in the playoffs when it comes around?
Well, when you guys go first.
I'll start.
I'll go for it.
Yeah, I'll start. The Devils are a good team. Let's just make sure we understand that. I think they may drop off a little bit. Especially after getting hammered by the Carolina Hurricanes. I think they may drop off. They could come in like third. At this point, I would say, depending on who they play in the first round of the playoffs, they could get to the second round. But I think once they get to the second round, they're going to be facing facing teams that are good defensively. And, the Devils just defensively last year made too many mistakes, especially in the games that they lost. If you take a look at the 3 games they lost to the Rangers, they were extremely porous defensively. And then when they played Carolina, they were like a sieve. So that's going to have to get cleaned up. And I think the Carolina kind of showed the whole league how you beat the Devils. So we'll see how they adjust. But they're a dangerous team, no question about it. If things go perfectly right for them, and they're able to clean up that, and they're able to upgrade their goaltending, and I said it earlier today to you, Brian. They could end up with your goalie. Who knows, Josh Gibson?
John.
That could definitely happen. That could make them a lot better. But in their current state, with the current goaltending, I don't see them advancing as far. I think this year it could be a little bit rougher. They may take a step back.
Well, let's see here. Devils Kings fan 67 saying Devils will make a run for the conference against Carolina and lose. I don't think they would be able to make a run against Carolina in the conference final, only because they would have to be a wild card, or Carolina would have to be a wild card for that to happen. But as for them going to the conference final, I think that's very possible for them. If things go well for them and they can get hot, they could essentially. The Devils are that kind of team that when you don't expect them to do something, they do something. And it's the shittiest thing about that team. It's like you wish they would just go away, but they keep coming back. It's like that bad fucking rash you can't get rid of. No matter how much cream you put on that fucker, it's coming back. No matter what you fucking do. That's literally what the Devils are. They are a rash on the NHL's butt cheeks. That's exactly what they are.
That was something. That was trip talk. I think that happened on your trip to South Carolina. There, it sounds like you were talking from personal experience.
Uh-oh.
No. That was more like my ankle decided to say, "Hey, you mind if I roll you and I hurt for like before the trip?" And yeah, that's literally what happened. I had to ice my ankle going down there and driving down to South Carolina. That was nice. So that's what the Devils are. They're that moment when you're about to go on vacation and you get hurt.
Maddie, you're the oldest young guy I know.
Well, now I'm old. I'm 30. So I'm 30. Yeah. 1993. 30 years old, July 12th.
Wow.
Yes.
Why, God? Why, God? You said you'd stop doing this to us.
You know what upsets me? I was his age when we all met.
Holy shit. It really has been that long, hasn't it? God damn.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll tell you this right now. I felt old even before I turned 30. The moment that I realized Carter Hart, he grew up idolizing fucking Carey Price. I'm like, Jesus, I remember when Carey Price got drafted by the fucking Canadians. What the fuck? Jesus.
Some of the drafts we've covered. I'm going to talk about a guy for the Devils on a draft that we covered here in a second. But what I really feel was something to really look forward to in 2024, having a special called A2D 10 years of A2D.
Jesus. Good
A2D
Lord.
10. You can just see it now. A2D. And then 2 X's. Boom, boom. Make it so. Anyway.
Love it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Devils Kings fans saying, gladly humbled to Meg, a big rash on the Metro. Give us more cups. Well played, sir. Well played.
I like all the rivals in here making jokes. I love it. It's a nice melting pot, the hockey happy hour. And when I look at the Devils here, right, could they take a step back? Sure. There's been some good arguments made, but I like what they've done this offseason. You locked up your major acquisition from last year in Timo Miner for 8 years. You take care of him. He's going to perform well for you, right? But they also re-signed a winger named Jesper Bratt, and I think that's not, as key, on the same, level of superstar, but still key for your team. He's a key member, of this Devils team, and you locked him up as well. But trading for Tyler Toffoli, could he slow down the speed? Absolutely. He sometimes looks like he's skating in cement, but he did score 34 goals last season, and he brings a goal prowess. He brings a veteran presence, and he brings a leadership to a locker room of a team that, is only 27 and a half years of age coming into this season. So I just like a lot of these additions here that they've done in this offseason in terms of, setting them up for, if not just a repeat of performance, taking that next step. But ultimately, like I said before, we covered the 2020 draft. Me, you, and Brian did, Maddie. And we talked about a kid out of the Swedish league a lot that year, Alexander Holtz. And he's starting to come into his own now here with the Devils. I think the development of him, and I said in our opening for discussing the poll about the development of Luke Hughes, these two guys come along both offensively and defensively. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer that the Devils take this division as much as I hate it.
And Devils Kings fans like Mitch Marner on the Devils. Make it happen. No. Please, God, no. Don't do that. No. Although he does go on to say we'll also take Hart pending burrito payments. Well, at least we've got the finances figured out of that whole situation. Let's jump back real quick to Oilers fan, because he did have his predictions for the Metro to throw that up real quick. Yeah, here we are. So he said first he has the Rangers taking the division. He has the Hurricanes in second. He has the Capitals in third. I'm not so sure about that one. The Devils are in fourth. I'm not so sure about that one either. Fifth, the Flyers. Definitely not sure about that one. And then the Blue Jackets, okay. And then the Penguins seventh, possible. And he had he swapped it. He had the Islanders seventh and the Penguins last. Well, I'm fine with that as long as the Penguins are last. That's okay. Yeah. But
I'm starting to get the impression that the YouTube character limit ends right at 7th place.
Right.
Because the 8th is always on the second side.
So that's an interesting one there. I really do not know about that Capitals third place berth. Like, holy shit. Does Ovechkin recapture his youth from 2008?
Well, if you get a full year of him with Nicky Backstrom again, you know what I mean? They got robbed of that last year. Could you see a quick turnaround in Washington? Maybe, but then now you're talking a whole new coaching system. It's tough to fathom that happens.
Right.
Plus is Backstrom going to stay healthy?
Yeah, is he going to stay healthy? Yeah,
Is John Carlson going to stay healthy? Yeah. John Carlson had a really serious injury last year.
Yeah, I don't know. The Caps one, that one I'm not so sure about. I think the Devils would be a more likelier candidate for third place. And for the Flyers to get fifth, holy shit, I actually would probably be ready to throw a parade if the Flyers got fifth place in the division. Like, holy shit, we are way further along in development than I thought we were. Holy shit. I do not think that's happening. I think it's sixth and below. I don't think we're going higher than that.
If it can happen to the Baltimore Orioles, it can happen to the Flyers.
Oh, well, I appreciate the faith. And you know what? That's a good
point. Never know. You never know.
And you know what? I see what you did, too.
If somebody told you the Orioles would have the best record in the American League, your side would have hurt at the beginning of the season because you'd be laughing so hard.
No, but you know what? I see what you're doing, too, because the Orioles wear orange and black, too. So you know what? I see what you're doing. You're making the parallel.
Yes. And also, everybody would have been laughing about them.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah. They were a few games over 500 last year. Yeah, big deal. They didn't do anything over the offseason. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, look at them now. All young players, and they're the envy of every general manager in Major League Baseball. You never know. That could happen with the Flyers. Don't forget, you got the Russian kid sitting in Russia who's going to be there, and you know what? He's going to suddenly jump on the ice one day and like Superman and become and end up. Nobody could have an answer for him.
He's going to be what's his name?
He could be like Jack Hughes. I mean, all of a sudden one year say, you know what? I'm not so bad. I'm way better than I'm way better than this.
So
I'm gonna go out there and play like that.
So what you're saying is that the Flyers will have either we'll have like Michkov, or we'll have one of the Russian players pop onto the ice out of nowhere, and it'll be like when Fedorov finally came over to the NHL. He's just going to light the fucking lamp and just light the world on fire, basically.
Right, because nobody's going to have any scouting reports on him. Nobody's going to know what he does. None of the goalies are going to have a book on him.
Okay. All right.
But the key is you gotta make sure when he does come in, like you have to bring him in like maybe in like February or March.
Oh, I see. Got to strike when the iron's hot. I see what you're saying. I got you.
Right. All of a sudden, when they have a little salary cap room, he comes out of, he decides he can't stand Russia anymore, and the Flyers finally work it out and they let him out of his contract because the team he's playing for is like a last place team.
Right.
You never know.
That's true.
You never know with some of these things. The Russians it's strange what goes on there.
Yes, to say the least. Yes.
Very strange what they do with their players.
All right. Me Metal Mike wants to know what kind of burritos. I'm going to assume that'd be the spicy kind, or in other words, he wouldn't really be a Devils fan. So it wouldn't make much sense if that wasn't the case. It's
Well,
like,
and then, listen, and then you get Tom Sestito to coach them.
right, Tom Sestito.
Yes, the
Good
Sestito
Lord.
burrito.
There you go. All right. So, was there anybody who needed to go for the Devils? Did you give your prediction for them, Brad?
Yes.
Okay, that's right. You did. Okay, so I think I was the only one.
Perfect.
I will say the Devils. I'm going to see them. I think they'll do second. I think they'll be second place, and I actually think that. I think the Rangers do take first place. This is how it kind of goes in hockey. I feel like, yeah, the Devils won the playoff series last year, but the Rangers will take the division, and then then they'll have the rubber match somewhere in the playoffs. It'll be like a semifinal meet between the two of them to settle the score.
Could very well be.
Because I would assume the Rangers would beat the wild card team that they draw. I would assume.
You know what? You never know. Hockey, after the playoffs last year, I can't assume anything anymore.
Right. Chaos did reign.
After Florida beat Boston.
Well, Rangers, you guys have a lot to figure out too. You know, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you don't have like all these guys still in camp with you. You know what I mean?
Who are we talking about?
Well, I mean, like in terms of like you had what's his name Tarasenko. You know what I mean? Like there's been some turnover. You know what I mean? You also, I know you were really bigly adamant about.
I think Tarasenko is just is just spending some time with Ottawa and babysitting those guys, and then at the playoff at the trade deadline when Ottawa's out of it, which they will be because they're Ottawa.
Right.
He'll get traded to the Rangers again.
Oh, so he's going to be like the Justin Verlander of the NHL.
There you go. Exactly. Tyler Mott. He's going to be the new Tyler Mott. We don't keep him. We let him go, and then just before the trade deadline, we make a call.
Right.
Hey, yo, get Tyler Mott back here again.
Right.
But I can see that happening again.
So let's see here. Flyers fan 1995 saying, "I'd throw a party if we get fifth place and the Pittsburgh Penguins became the new Maple Leafs." And then he goes on to say, "Weird prediction: Flyers, Blackhawks, this cup. Bedard versus what on the earth Flyers team winning the cup?" So we'll just do a replay of 2010. Only difference is the Flyers win this time around, where they do another 0-3 comeback, be the first ever NHL team to do it twice. Because you know what? That would make sense. Only the Flyers could ever do silly shit like that two times ever in their history.
Yes. Yes.
Let's see. Flyers fans saying also, realistic, you never know. We could get hot and go on a run. Maybe we could. Who knows? Who knows?
Listen,
with the way the young players develop, if they develop well, sky's the limit, right?
Listen, if they play real tight defense, if Tortorella can get them playing a real tight defense and keep these games low scoring, their offense they can definitely score some goals.
But it's also another thing, too. It's very liberating when you have no expectation. So that's the other thing, too. When you play literally with house money the entire time and you just happen to be on a hot run and everybody's like, what the fuck? How'd this happen? Be like, that's a good feeling when it's your team that actually does it. It's like, see?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then if we wound up beating a team in the first round, it'd be funny as hell. So
it would be bedlam.
Okay, so just imagine this. Say the Flyers draw either the Devils or the Rangers and they beat them. I'm not going to lie. If it's the Rangers, I don't know how much laughter I think I would probably be. I don't think I'd be able to be on the show. It'd be virtually impossible for me to say anything because I'd be giggling way too much every time I look at Brad. Be like, how did you guys fucking lose to us? How? All right. So let's see here. With that, we move on to the third period. And the third period sponsor for the show is FanUp. It's the best way to enjoy fantasy sports. And if you want to get in on the MLB action, they have daily MLB contests plus more. Obviously, they'll have it for the NFL when that rolls around, the NBA and the NHL as well. Win great prizes. Sign up today. And when you use that A2D promo code you see down there, you get 5,000 bonus points. That would normally cost you $50. That will not, because you simply type in the words A2D, and that's 5,000 bonus points right there in your account just to get you started. That's a nice little deal right there, if I do say so myself. Fanup.app is where you got to go to download it. Start making yourself a little bit of cash on the fantasy front. Let me tell you something. One of the guys who's very good at the fantasy world is Mr. Pove, right on down here. He's made himself quite a nice piece of cash in his day playing some fantasy sports.
It's the only way I could continue calling this a job, I tell you that much. No, that's not true. That's not true. My employers take care of me pretty well here and elsewhere.
They're watching, so shh, keep it. You know, let's see. Yeah, Devils Kings fan. Flyers, eh?
Oh.
Better than a stupid Penguin. Well, I appreciate that. We are better than a dumb Penguin. I do admit that. Penguins can't even fly. At least we can. So.
Speaking of which, I had Valdez going in a head-to-head league tonight and on a DFS team tonight too.
Oh,
hurrah!
good Lord. Good Lord.
Not to toot my own horn or anything.
Braver
Through a no-no, so.
Yeah. Well, his price was down because he'd been scuffling the past couple starts, and I'm like, Cleveland, their offense, especially post-trade deadline, now losing Josh Bell. I was like, I like that matchup. A lot of ground balls.
That's what it looked like, too.
Cleveland can't score.
Penguins guy, Crosby fan saying, was funny to watch you guys make Boston choke in 7 games. Yeah. So
That was kind of sweet.
That was nice in 2010, yeah.
As a Yankee fan, I enjoyed watching a Boston team blow a 3-0 lead.
And then it was even more, it's just as fun as watching the Panthers defeat them in 7 games in overtime. Just as much. I'm like, you know what?
That made the season. After the Rangers got knocked out, the fact that the Panthers beat the Bruins, I was like, all right, I have a team to root for now.
Right. That was just, you know, I was kind of like dead throughout pretty much 90% of the season because I knew the Flyers were not going to do all that well. And the Sharks are rebuilding too. So I'm like, well, I'm kind of fucked both ways. But to see the Panthers do that, it's like, see, I knew there was a reason to still love hockey. Hope had not been completely stripped away from me. There's still a God out there.
You know, if you're a true Boston hater, seeing the Miami Heat crush the Celtics in Game 7 of the NBA semifinals, that was pretty sweet too. I got to tell you. I think what was the score of that game was like 36-13 in the first quarter. For the Heat. That was a total mutilation.
Friggin'. Why do you got to do this, Penguins fan, man? We were getting along just fine with the Boston hate. Then you got to bring up the fact that we lost in the Stanley Cup Finals to Chicago. We were doing just fine until then, man.
And then you have to remind me of that season when we lost in a shootout to you for you to make the playoffs. And then you go all the way to the Cup Finals, for crying out loud.
To be fair, though, I think if the Rangers had met the Devils that year, the Devils would have beaten them. So,
you know what? Probably. I mean, yeah.
So let's see here. Canucks Dork saying 2011, that never happened. We never tried to burn down our city. I will say though, the Canucks fans, man, there is something to be said about fans who want to burn their city down after losing the Stanley Cup final. Only Vancouver. Only Vancouver.
They did the same thing when they lost to the Rangers in Game 7.
Right. I think he even talks about that, too. It's like, again, we got angry in 94. Good Lord.
A lot of cars were upside down after 1994.
I could say this right now. No one loses the Stanley Cup Finals like Vancouver. No one.
Nobody.
As Fishstick saying, we won 4 cups, no complaints. Yeah, I'm sure there aren't. You won 4 fucking straight. Like, what more could you ask for? It's like
but that was when Moby Dick was a guppy.
Captain Ahab was just a sailor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Captain Ahab was still on a surfboard back then.
Right. He wasn't even on a ship. Oh man.
He got his first pair of diving goggles.
His daddy told him not to swim in the deep end yet.
Yeah, exactly. Swim to the shallow end and look for pennies.
Oh, a Sabres fan. We almost won a cup. Twice. 75 against the Flyers, and then the bad one, 99.
Oh, you mean when you got cheated? Yeah, they got cheated that year.
That's a rough one.
Yeah,
that's a rough one.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That goal Hull scored, they were in the crease.
It was.
That goal shouldn't have counted.
See, it wouldn't have been so bad had the refs not been calling that back then, but they did. It's like, yeah.
Oh, they were calling that all the time.
Right. So that's like, ooh, you talking about the one time not to give a fuck about the call.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
If you're a Buffalo Sabre fan, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I was rooting for the Sabres that year, so that annoyed the hell out of me. Because I just could never root for a Dallas team ever.
Which was the best Abs Cup team? Well, are you talking all 3, or are you just talking the first 2? Because obviously a couple years back, I mean, obviously the Abs were the team to beat in the playoffs that year, and they lived up to that by winning the cup. They were a lot better. They were a lot better defensively. The year they beat the Devils, I thought that was the best team they had. That was a tough battle. They really had to work for that cup.
Yeah, when they got Ray Bourque, in my opinion, I don't remember which year that was, but when they got
2001.
Ray Bourque, the year they got Ray Bourque, I thought that was the best team they had.
That's a good, yeah.
Because they had such a hard time getting to the finals and such a hard time winning it. I mean, they really did. I mean, they had, how many wars did they have in that every playoff series was a war for them.
And I do believe they faced the Red Wings again.
Yes, they did. Yeah, with all the fights and everything.
Yeah, so that 2001 team is a good one. I mean, because in the 90s, that team had been built by the Nordiques. And they kind of just took advantage of the fact that team had been built by the Nordiques.
That was so unfair.
Boy, man, could just talk about getting raw dogged. Holy shit, being a Nordiques fan and watching that team win a cup in Denver that should have been yours. Oh, that's a rough one to swallow there.
Yeah. That was.
I think, Brad, you're right. I think 2001 probably does hit the nail on the head. I do think that team was better than the 90s one.
Yeah, it was so hard it was so hard for them to win, and seeing Ray Bourque on the team and Ray Bourque finally winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, that was out of their Stanley Cups. That was my favorite one, even though I couldn't stand the Abs. I was rooting for Ray Bourque. And
I will say the 2001 team does beat the one from 2021 because the reason
defensively.
That, and also the fact you have Wah in goal, and it's like, good luck.
Exactly.
You get Wah in the series, like, all right, have fun with that, fuckhead. It's like, good luck scoring on him because you're not gonna.
You may get one, you may get 2 if you're lucky. Right. If he's having an off night.
Wah had one bad playoff game that one time against the Red Wings and never again. So
pretty much.
So I would say, I think you're right, Brad. 2001 would probably be my vote on that. Rob, Brad, do you guys have a dog in that one? You guys going to roll with 2001? Do you think maybe it's 96 or 2021?
Nah, it's got to be Bork finally getting his cup. And don't forget, too, it was also Rob Blake, too, getting his.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
forgot about
that's
him.
right.
Yeah,
Rob
that's
Blake.
right.
Yeah. You know what's
Yeah.
funny? Wasn't he like on the third line? That's how deep that team was, that he was playing third line. Like,
Yeah, that team
Jesus.
Yeah.
Back in the
Joe
non-salary cap era.
Sakic was just an
Oh,
unbelievable player. Oh my God. He
one
was
of the
good.
best captains you could have ever had on your team in that era.
Yeah, I think they have Sakic and Forsberg on the team.
Yes, Forsberg, who was still playing
Yeah.
and was still capable of playing.
Yeah.
Then he came to
Oh.
Philadelphia, and that all changed.
Yeah. Well, he had to finish where he started.
Right. Then,
Yeah.
Hi, Stars fan, Jackalope. It's a favorite Dallas Stars team. I mean, honestly, that the teams they had in the 99-2000 team was a fun team. I mean, they had some great players on that squad.
Yes, they did.
I mean, to be fair, though, they had some good teams in the early 2000s. They just could not beat Colorado or Detroit to save their sorry asses. They would always play second fiddle to them every single goddamn time.
The problem was they couldn't score like them.
No,
They were
that's
always
true.
a really good defensive team. They were big, and they were tough, and they were hard to score against. But they couldn't score enough.
Right. I mean, they had some good goaltenders. I mean, obviously they had Eddie the Eagle, and they won the cup with him.
Yes.
But then you
Yeah,
also
when they got Brett Hall, okay, that was the missing piece. I think everybody could agree that was the straw that stirred the drink, as Reggie Jackson once said.
that I could agree with that. Yeah. I mean, Marty Turco, I will say he gets a bit of a bad rep, but I don't think he was a bad goalie for the Stars. I think he was a solid goaltender, Marty Turco.
Yeah, he was just a character. That's
Yeah.
a lot of people discredit him because he is such a crazy guy, and
But that's goaltenders.
Yeah,
they're crazy. That's just what they are.
Yeah, he was a funny guy too, but he was pretty good.
Right. And Mimo Mike saying, we always had good playoff battles against San Jose in the mid to late 2000s. Lots of interesting goalies at that time period. That's true. San Jose has some interesting confrontations with the Dallas Stars back in the day.
Yep.
That was actually one of the better matchups that you would see in the West, ironically enough. And there were some interesting goalies, to say the least, between Turco. San Jose actually went and grabbed Brian Boucher one year because they didn't have a goalie. And, of course, obviously, we all know good old Evgeny Nabokov. That was he was a fun guy to have in that. It's like, hey, are we going to get the good Nabokov tonight, or are we going to get the shitty Nabokov tonight? It's like, oh, the shitty one? See you next year, boys. Oh, another good year down the toilet.
Yep.
Let's see here. Andy Moog was a good goalie. He was. Andy Moog. He got overshadowed in Edmonton because of Fuhrer. But then he went to Boston and he proved, you know what, Moog's actually a pretty damn good goalie.
He was really good in Boston.
Yeah, so, all right. Email Mike's Flyers, Stars, and Flames. Interesting. I don't know. I've always thought it was interesting with three teams. I could do the two. I don't know if I could do the three. Like that's just, to me, that's a little hard to do. One per conference, I think. Anyway. All right. So on to our final topic for the day on the third period, the Penguins. So as we talked about earlier, how Ron Hextall very much dismantled the team. And not only dismantled it, literally cut the brake line and allowed the Penguins to go crashing straight into a median. The Penguins at this point, where they're at, they've been on a decline. It's been a rough go at it for them. They missed the playoffs last year. Is that going to happen again? Are we going to see the Penguins miss for a second straight year in a row? It'd be the first time they've missed consecutive playoffs since the early 2000s. So it would be a huge, huge moment that you wouldn't see. Because, I mean, obviously last year was weird. No Ovechkin and no Crosby in the playoffs. Do you see this happening again? Do you see no Crosby in the playoffs?
Yeah. Yeah. I could see them finishing 8th. Old teams get injured. And that's they're the oldest team in the league. All their key players are like 34, 35 years old. You know, I mean, they're and Tristan Jarry's always getting hurt. You know, you think Casey DeSmith is good enough to get them into the playoffs? Okay.
No.
If you think he is, then okay. I throw up my hand and say, okay, fine. I don't think he is. And they just signed him to big money too. Jarry.
It's more than just the goal. It's more than just. I mean, you're right. They did just sign him to big money, and does that take into account for games missed? That's the question. Because you will have that with Jarry, but you'll have that with a lot of the players on this team, Brad. And behind them, there's not a lot of depth. I mean, this offseason, you brought in Matt Nieto and Lars Eller. They don't really move the needle.
Yeah, big deal.
One guy,
Lars Eller is another old player. I mean, he fits right in with the Geritol gang.
Yeah, he really does. He does that indeed. I mean, a guy that fits well with them as well in terms of that being advanced in age, Riley Smith. I do like that ad though.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that one. But again, he's another one he's another guy that's past his prime. I mean, they've got a bunch of guys that are old, and you know what happens in the NHL when you're old. By mid-season, you know, they may get off to a good start, but you know what? They're going to give it up.
So Jim and Fla, who is, of course, Penguins fan, saying Crosby needs 89 points this year to move into the top 10 all-time. I'm sure he'll get there.
He'll get there, sure.
He also said they missed the playoffs by 1 point. Let's not act like they got blown out, which, okay, yes, that is true.
Okay,
they did not get blown out. And he also says Crosby didn't miss a single game last year. That is also true.
Okay.
And Malkin didn't miss either, but that's a good point. Can they do another 82 straight? It's tough because of the way that hockey is, you know, rough game, things can happen. Sure, they got through the full 82 this time, but Brad said it as well. I was like, is it going to happen again? And even so, with the 82 games, you still missed the playoffs. Yes, by 1 point, but you still missed. You could miss the playoffs next year by 1 point. You still missed.
The way they missed was inexcusable. Who did they lose to at the end of the season that they had to beat to make the playoffs? They lost to a really shitty team at the end of the season that they had to beat to make the playoffs.
Chicago.
Yeah, that's what I mean, come on.
So, I mean, to say that the team has been very inconsistent, I think that's pretty much what we're going to say. They've been very inconsistent. They shoot themselves in the foot, and they pretty much can't get out of their own way in order to stay competitive. Now, yes, I get that Karlsson is possible to come to the Penguins. We'll see about that. It's been the big question of whether they can make it work salary-wise. We'll see. Can they make that contract work in Pittsburgh? There's a lot of questions on that.
I mean, him being older,
already at the cap though. Pittsburgh. How are they going to find $7 million extra dollars?
What were you going to say, Rob?
I know that's an interesting question. Where will they find the extra money for him? But they kind of need to do something because defensively there is no depth. I mean, you know, John Marino was a good addition to them last season, but beyond Chris Letang and him, who do they have defensively?
Nothing.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, that was a problem.
You're saying Jeff Petrie will be part of the trade? I have heard that. But again, we'll see if it happens. Again, until it happens, Karlsson's not on the Penguins. So we'll see. We'll see. And Stars fan saying Penguins had bad goaltenders. Goaltending has been rough for them. Jarry, like you've been saying earlier, Brad, he's been getting hurt a lot, and that hasn't helped them. Has Jarry been a bad goaltender?
No.
I think that's harsh. I wouldn't say he's been a bad goaltender, but he has been injury prone. This Smith he's a backup goalie. That's what he is. He is a backup goalie. That's his role in the NHL.
He'll give you 1 out of 5 incredible games.
Right.
And then he'll be just normal. And he will once in a while stand on his head though.
Right. And Stars fans saying Pittsburgh's AHL team is one of the lowest in terms of the pipeline prospects. Well, I mean, that's what's going to happen when you've been in the playoffs for so long. You've been one of the top contenders for the Cup for a very long time. That's normally what happens. Usually, that's what happens. But, Jim, it's been a while since we've seen you, by the way, brother. So thank you for chiming back in. At least it's been a while since I've seen him. I don't know if you guys saw him last week or what have you. But, it's good to see him again. He says, as a Pens fan, I'm nervous as hell about their age, but I'm also excited knowing Dubas will do almost anything to win. Well, yes, Kyle Dubas will definitely do that, but I don't know. It hasn't really paid off in Toronto. Hasn't exactly resulted in anything for them. Yes, they won a playoff series, but that's all they did. And they spent a lot of money to get that one playoff series victory.
Yes,
Brian, how did you feel about the Dubas hiring?
For Pittsburgh, I loved it.
Yeah, you loved it.
I loved it. I thought it was great. I mean, they're bringing a guy who knows how to build a team.
Right.
Not saying that Hextall doesn't, but I mean, look at what he did in Toronto. Did Toronto get out of the playoffs in the first round? No, but he built a really good team. He knows how to draft. He knows how to bring in talent, and he knows how to work a cap. And I think that's why I don't think Pittsburgh is going to be as bad as people think they are, because he's going to make moves. He's going to make trades. He's going to get back to the cap floor, and he's going to get back, pieces. He's going to move pieces. He's going to get younger, and he's going to bring in talent. I mean, I know you guys said otherwise, but I like bringing in Lars Eller. I like them bringing in Matt Nieto. I like that they brought in there was somebody else they brought in too that I'm blanking on. Riley Smith, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're bringing in speed there. You're bringing in Riley Smith is coming off a season where he had 56 points. So that's going to be some depth scoring there, and that's what hurt Pittsburgh last year. They had a lack of depth scoring. As long as you have Crosby, you have Malkin, you have Letang, you're going to be that Pittsburgh team is going to compete. You say what you want. Tristan Jarry didn't actually miss any time last year or the year before, and he's posted 2 goals against averages under 3 in those years. So goaltending isn't going to be an issue. Is the forwards being healthy going to be an issue? Yeah, that's going to be important moving forward for them. But I think it's going to come down to coaching. It's going to come down to Mike Sullivan. Are they going to continue to be able to play in his system and be able to be successful in it? They may need a new voice. It's just, it is what it is. He's been there forever. I think that's where they need a change. They need a change at head coach. I think are they old? Yes. Are they going to make the changes? Yes. As they see necessary, absolutely. But this Pittsburgh team is not going to be a team that finishes dead last in the division. They're going to be in a wild card hunt all season long. Then that's because they have Malkin, Letang, and Crosby. Until those 3 are gone, this team is going to compete because they're not going to settle for anything less. But they need to upgrade on defense.
Here's the problem. Okay, last year, if you count overtime losses as losses, Penguins were under 500 last year. That's a bad sign for them.
Okay, and that was under Ron Hextall.
Okay, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
Last year's last year. This year's this year. I like the moves they made in the front office and on paper. I like the Tristan Jarry signing.
I'm just looking. I
don't think they're done. No,
I'm just looking at the team. It's at some of the games played. Letang only played 64 games last year.
He was also coming back from a stroke.
Okay, I understand that, but it always seems to be something with Letang. I mean that always seems to happen with him. Kapanen was a disaster, so we can't bring him up. I'm just looking through some of this stuff. Teddy Bluger played 45 games. let's see some of these other guys. Okay, wait a minute. Let me go back to the top. Okay, so Crosby played all 82. So did Malkin. Gensel played 78. Raquel played 82. Jason Zucker played 78. Is Zucker still on the team, or did he leave?
No, he signed elsewhere.
Okay, so he's gone. Brandon Russ played 81, but Letang played 64. Petrie played 61. Marcus Peterson played 68, and Heinen, I don't remember him, but he played 65. Let me look at the goalies now. Jarry only played 47 games last year, so I mean I don't know how I'm pretty sure he was injured last year at some point, but he played 47, and DeSmith played 38, and then Dustin Tokarski, believe it or not, played 4 games. So they're going to need Jarry to play 60 games this year if they're going to be competitive, because they can't have this.
That's too much.
You think?
Oh yeah, 60
55.
games.
All right, say 55. He's going to need to play at least 55.
He's going to play 47. He's going to play somewhere ballpark around 50 because Casey DeSmith can handle a 30-35 load. That's his average.
Last year, Casey DeSmith's goals against
38. It was just over 3.
Yeah, he was 3.17 last year.
League average.
Is it? Okay. All right. I'm just looking to see. They were under 500 with him in the goal. He had a 905 save percentage, which is
Average.
Yeah. Casey DeSmith 909, which is a little bit above average.
I will say this with you, Jim. I do agree that the Capitals are worse, and I do think the Islanders are in a rougher spot than the Penguins are right now. So I do agree with you on that. I don't think that they're in a better position than the Penguins are.
But you also got to remember too, Matty, a lot of the names that Brad just ran off aren't on the roster anymore.
There was a lot of
is not a
changes.
Penguin
Yeah.
anymore. This team is not the same team it was last year. And they even brought in Alex Nedeljkovic as their third string goalie.
Right, but you hope you don't have to use your third string goal.
Yeah.
No.
Now,
I like the addition of Ryan Graves on defense too, because that's a little bit of grit.
and let's hear Jim's also
No,
saying,
I like Ryan Graves too. I think the Penguins are too old. I think that they're. I mean, Malkin was a -12 last year defensively. That's disastrous for a guy like him to be that bad.
Well, I think that's also a reflection of the team's performance as a whole, more so than that, because the team itself did not play as well as it needed to in order to get to where they needed to be. I don't think it was just on Malkin.
Well, yeah, but Crosby wasn't a minus player like that. Crosby was plus. Wait a minute. Crosby was +8, and Malcolm was -12. I mean, that means that there were 20 more goals scored while Malcolm was on the ice compared to Crosby, which shows you Malcolm really dropped off a lot.
But how many of that is actually on Malkin and not the defense?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't watch him enough to really.
I mean, if you actually look at his stats through his career, he is a minus player. But you can't always pinpoint the plus minus on that player. That's why I hate that stat.
Well, he's a +47 lifetime, which really isn't a lot for him. Considering the guy has 1,229 points. I mean, he's a great power play player, always has been.
But Malkin's more known for his offense than his defense. That's just the nature of his play.
-12, but he still had 83 points last year.
I understand that. How many were on the power play, though?
I'll tell you in a second.
But to overall,
36.
How much?
36.
Okay, so that's still not bad though. How many? That means he had 50 points, like around 50 points at even strength. That's actually not bad.
Jim's saying, I get it. They have a lot of questions, but they have 3 first ballot Hall of Famers leading the team. Crosby's definitely first ballot. I could see Malkin being first ballot.
Letang first ballot. Well, I wouldn't.
I don't know. I'm not saying anything bad about Letang when I say that, by the way. Don't get me wrong. Letang's a great player, but I don't know if he's first ballot. I think they might hold off on making him first ballot. Just
Okay, so
my personal opinion. But that's
Lifetime,
it.
156 goals, 535 assists, 691 points. Plus minus for a defenseman is important. He's plus 87. That's pretty good.
So, but what I will say is my prediction for the Penguins is I don't think they're last place. As a matter of fact, I think the Penguins will finish either 4th or 5th in the division. I think that they will be competitive in the wild card race. Will they make it? We'll see. It's possible. However, the thing that I'm very interested in watching, more so than the division, I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen in the Atlantic, because there's a lot of resurging teams in the Atlantic now. Things are starting to trade off. The Atlantic is starting to get tougher, and the Metro is starting to kind of decline a little bit.
That's true.
Not terribly, but the trade-off was always there where you knew who was going to make it in the Atlantic Division for the longest time. It was just 3 teams, and that was it. Now we're starting to see the trade-off where, okay, maybe there's a couple of surprise teams in the Metro, but for the most part, the Atlantic has become way more competitive with the resurgence of the Senators. Sabres are starting to get a little bit better now, getting out of the Jack Eichel era.
The Senators, Red Wings, and the
Red Wings,
Senators,
of course.
Red Wings, and the Red Wings and Buffalo are all significantly better than they've been in the past.
Right. Buffalo, we'll see. We'll talk about the Atlantic when we get there. But the point is there's resurging teams there. And so that's where it's going to be, okay, not so much the division the Penguins are going to need to worry about. I think they're going to have to worry more about the teams in the Atlantic in the wild card race. That's where their real worry is going to come from. If I was a Penguins fan, I'd be real concerned about the resurging teams over there, more so than the Metro. Not to say that there aren't Metro teams that can't go on a run. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is the Atlantic's more likely to get those wild card spots. We'll see. But it could very well happen that we see 2 Atlantic teams make it into the playoffs this year and a Metro team not get a wild card spot. We saw it last year. It could happen again this year. So let's see. Jim's saying the Metro will get at least 4 playoff teams. I'm not so sure about that. I'm really not so sure about that, Jim. I think the Atlantic could take both the wild card spots again. It could happen. So with that being said, that's how I feel on the Penguins. Gentlemen, is there anyone who had not given their prediction yet for where they think the Penguins will finish up?
I'm good.
I'll go on record and say 5th. I'm still got concerns about them with defense. I mean, as currently constructed today, that's what I'm commenting on. If there's changes, if they get, Carlson on defense and restructure that a little bit, okay, then maybe they could talk wild card, but I think they are on the outside looking in again. I really do like Jake Getzel, and I think he's the future of the Penguins organization. And if they get Brian Rust rebounding, they could push for that wild card, but I think they'll be on the outside looking in at 5th again. Or outside looking in again in 5th place.
Okay. Jim saying, I agree, 3rd or 4th. And he also says the Metro will get at least 4 playoff teams. Like I said, wasn't sure about that. He also says my top prediction, Florida misses the playoffs this year. It could happen. I mean, just because Florida went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals this year, Florida's got a lot of question marks in their own right. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Florida when their season gets up and running. And we'll talk about them next week when we get to the Atlantic Division, or whichever week we talk about the Atlantic. I don't want to jump to conclusions and jump the shark there and say that. But still, my point is we'll get to them when we get to them. All right, moving on to the overtime. Time for the shootout. Brought to you by Alonzi Travel, specializing in creating the vacation of your dreams, wherever that may be, whether it would be at Disney, Universal, you name it, they'll plan it for you. They have a talented team of travel experts, including Chucks and Ritz, who are experts in this department, and they will be able to create the custom vacation for you, so that way the only thing you got to worry about is packing. You don't even have to go through the stress of planning the whole thing out, because they'll do all that stressing for you. So
let me tell you this, 44 years of age, I've never been to Disney World, so my girlfriend's taking me to Disney World for Halloween week.
There you go.
And
that would be a crazy
Alonze's going to help us out. Yep.
There you go. See, Rob knows what he's doing. Him and the gal going to have a good old time down there at Halloween. I'm excited for you, bro. That's probably going to be really fun.
Yeah, you'll love that.
I want to have sex on Space Mountain.
Hey,
Oh, okay.
anything can happen at Halloween, just like anything can happen at Christmas.
Or whatever ride that has like, a secluded spot to it.
Right. Secluded hideaway.
Somewhere in Epcot Center, maybe. Wherever. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've never been. And
Maybe.
I've always heard all these adults going to Disney World. I'm like, I thought it was for like kids. And they're like, no.
No, a lot of it isn't.
Yeah, you know what, Rob? You could have sex like when you're traveling through the different countries. To be like, see, I've had sex in multiple countries
There you
while
go.
crossing the border. Just do a baller move like that right there. Oh,
Talking
all
about my
right.
ass. Well, we will be going to Disney. I'm very, very excited about that. Very,
Cool,
very excited.
brother. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are gonna have a good time. I'm excited for you. All right. So to the shootout we go. So, gents, what are you feeling? What do you think we should start with? Should we do the traditional and leave the hot take of the week for last, or should we mix things up a little bit? How you guys feeling on that?
Well, with the shootout this week, I kind of went with kind of something Rob threw at me last week was doing a top 5 in the organizations that we're covering.
Gotcha. All right, then. So, all right, let's start it off. So we will do top 5. And the question that I have to ask is there anything in, what's the word for it? Anything like specifically like off the table, or is everything on the table?
Just who you ever think the top 5 in your organizations are, and we'll just go by organization. We'll just, whoever wants to start it off, we'll go just read off your top 5.
All right, cool. Just wanted to be sure on how we wanted to do that.
What teams are we talking about?
Just the teams we're covering tonight.
Oh, okay. Devils, Penguins, and
Devils, Penguins, Flyers, and then
Flyers.
next week when I figure out who we're going to do the 3 teams from there as well.
Gotcha.
All right. So the top 5 players for each franchise. So I guess for the franchise tonight, obviously we could save the Flyers for last. I guess for the Devils, so I guess the top 5 for me for the Devils would probably fall into not ranked, but for the 5 top players that they have, Timo Meier, obviously you got to throw him in there.
No, we're talking all time, by the way.
Oh, we're talking all time. Oh,
All time.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't know that. Okay. I'll adapt on the fly. I did the
that
top
was-
5 currently.
Okay, that was okay. I must have misread that when you sent that to me, Rob, and that's kind of where I was stemming from, was from that message you sent.
I even
me.
forgot I gave you that idea. I thought this was your own idea of who's the top 5 in the franchise right now.
Oh man, this is why I tell you guys to send me stuff, is so I can use it.
Sure.
This is all you,
Sure.
Pope.
All right. I'm on board.
All right, so I guess 5 for me for the all-time Devils. Not ranked, but start off Scott Niedermayer. I can't really argue with why he would be in the top 5 for the Devils. Obviously, Brodeur, measuring stick for goaltending. I'll throw in for the Devils as well. I'm going to go with Patrick Elias. You know what? Even though he spent most of his time in Minnesota, I'm going to throw Zach Parise in there. Zach Parise was very, very good for the Devils when he was playing for them.
Nice curveball.
And to finish it up with players on that team, you know what? I'm just going to keep throwing the curveballs, and I'll throw Brian Gianna out there. I hated Brian Gianna. Hated that fucker. He always scored on us.
So good. So bad for Montreal, but so good for the
Right.
Yeah.
An American player, too, ironically enough. All right, then. So, gentlemen, take it away. Brad, I'm assuming you're going to skip this one. But
No, I think very accurate. I think I give you a very accurate description.
All right, then. So, who wants to go now? Who wants to give their top five devs?
I'll go next.
All right.
Go next. Brodeur, Stevens, Johnny McLean, Patrick Eliash, and Patty Verbeek.
Pat Verbeek.
God, he was. I forgot he was a Devil.
Interesting. Was early 90s was Verbeek with him, or was it the mid 90s?
He was there in the late 80s and early 90s.
Okay, it was green and red. Okay, green and red period.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he was some player for them. he was too much. He was. John McClain was a really great player for them too. You guys probably forgot about him, but boy, he was some kind of a player for them.
Oh, I remember him.
He had a good mustache too back in the day too when he was playing.
He could score goals, boy.
He was a pretty good coach too.
Yep, not bad.
Great and Die Hard.
Yeah. Hey man, listen, when you get 6 films, you did something right.
This is how I found the time to play hockey.
Yeah.
Saving New York City all the time.
Well, listen, it was the summertime. Well, no, technically not. It was Christmas. Maybe it was All-Star break when he dropped Hans Gruber, came back.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, I like that. Robbie, you want to go next, buddy?
Sure. I'll jump in. Number 5, Ken Danico. Good tough
Danico.
player. I know Brad doesn't like him.
No, I can't stand the guy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give him any credit for anything. Just because he's Mr. Devil.
That's why I kept a certain somebody off the list too myself. But anyway.
Right. Number 4, just because he was so valuable to them, especially during their playoff runs, I'm going to say Claude Lemieux. Just being an antagonizer, getting underneath the skin of the other team, and then, holding his own offensively too. I think that's a key part of it.
Oh, good old Claude Lemieux.
Oh God.
Right. And then Eliash, number 3. Oh no, actually Eliash number 2. I'm gonna put Jack Hughes at number 3.
Wow.
Put him on this list because I think he has the talent to be the next great Devil and had a fine year backing it up last year. I think he does. I think he gets number 3 on the Mount Rushmore of the Devils. But number 2 and number 1 are no doubt Eliash and Martin Brodeur.
Hell yeah. You know what? I like that with the Hughes one right there. I like it. A little new blood in there. It's good.
I mean, I was even debating putting him in there because of last year, and he's going to take a step forward after what he did.
I would just wait a couple more years for him to put him on the Mount Rushmore. It's just it's so early in his career, but he's great right now.
Brad, you're assuming Devils fans know anything about the team. They only just became fans. So he's already on the Mount Rushmore. You got nothing to worry about.
Okay. There you go. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got to remember what franchise we're talking about here. We're talking about the Devils.
I throw myself on the mercy of the court.
Yeah. That's all right. You're acquitted. All right, moving on. Bri.
I mean, I think my top 3 is the same as everybody else's. It's Brodeur, Niedermeyer, Elias. I know Rob's was a little different, but I mean, when you think Devils hockey, those are 3 of the guys that you think of. And then number 4, I got Scott Stevens, just because he was such a dominant defensive player, whether you liked him or not. And number 5, I'm actually surprised none of you guys brought this guy up, and this is Scott Gomez.
I was debating him or Gianna. Those were the 2 guys I was debating in my head.
Scott Gomez was one of my favorite Rangers. You know why? Because we traded him to Montreal for Ryan McDonough.
Isn't that nice when you fleece another team?
Oh, especially the Devils. Especially Montreal.
Yeah.
I mean, we signed him away from the Devils to screw them, and then we screwed Montreal. That was beautiful.
That's some old tactics right there. Some old
Yeah.
fuck you tactics.
Yes.
All right. So let's see here. Roscoe was throwing out some names. He threw out Brodeur, Bobby Holik, Jason Arnott, Scott Stevens, Mike Rupp, and Scott Gomez.
Rupper. I remember Rupper.
So
I initially had Jamie Langenbrunner on my list, but I saw Scott Gomez. I'm like, yeah, they don't win a couple of those cups without him.
I was also thinking about Jamie Langenbrunner too. Those were guys, they were all in the peripheral. So I was like, yeah, it's hard not to.
They had a lot of
acknowledge them.
really, really good players. Not a lot of Hall of Famers, but a lot of really good players.
When they won the cup in 2001, that team was talented.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, 2000. When they won that cup, the one in the mid 90s was just like, yeah, you trapped your way to the cup, you assholes. So
Yeah,
it's like,
pretty much. But that second team was very good.
yes. All right, so on to the Penguins, and Jim already threw out his as natural. His was Lemieux at 1, Yager at 2, Crosby, Malkin, and Ron Francis, and an honorable mention to Letang. Yeah, that's and he also mentioned Fleury as an honorable mention on that one. That's a pretty robust list right there. Hard to argue against that one.
They had one heck of a group. You could pick a lot of guys from that team.
Right. I'll start off with so for me at 5, again, not ranking this. I'm gonna go at 5. I'll throw out Tom Barrasso only because I think you could throw out the forwards, but you gotta give Barrasso some love. That man friggin' stood on his head for 2 straight years in a row to give the Penguins their cups. So it's like, you know what? Give a lot of respect to Barrasso on that one. Also an American player, too, which was interesting to note. Fleury, you know what? I'm going to throw Fleury on there just because that man was a damn machine, except against the Flyers. So maybe that might be a little biased there. But, you know, besides that, I did love Ron Francis. He was a great player. Mm-hmm. And I always thought it was cool when he went back to the Hurricanes and he had the silver hair and he was just flying down the rinks, just like, damn, man, Silver Fox motherfucker running around. And he was still scoring goals too, like it was nobody's business. Like, damn, Francis didn't miss a step. And I'm gonna throw at number 2 controversy. I'll throw Lemieux at 2, and number 1 is Yogs. Always gonna be Yogs. I don't give a fuck. At me, I don't give a shit. It's always gonna be Yogs all the way. Yeah, so hit like and subscribe. Who's going?
I'll go next because I feel like a lot of our lists are going to be similar on this one. You know, 1 Lemieux, 2 Crosby. I got Yager at 3, Barrasso 4, Ron Francis at 5.
Makes sense.
Well, my list is very similar. I had Crosby ahead of Yager too. I mean, he's just a generational guy, and I think Mario was too. Yager is generational. He was just more centered with the goal scoring.
Right.
Whereas I think Mario and Crosby had the complete game. So that's the only reason why I differentiated between those 3 there. I had Ronnie Francis at 4, and I put Marc Recchi at 5. I liked his Penguins career.
Yeah,
Marc Recchi, yeah. I mean, Recchi had his 2 stints with the Penguins. And, Rex loved his Keystone State teams. He had 2 stints with the Penguins and 2 stints with the Flyers.
Well, Robbie, the one thing that you failed to mention, though, and why this is actually why I put Yager at 3, not 2. Both Lemieux and Crosby have spent their entire careers with Pittsburgh, whereas Yager has not. He spent a lot of time in Washington with the Rangers, and then he went on 1-year deals with Dallas, Philly, Boston, Devils,
Florida,
a bunch of teams. So that's kind of what moved him down the list.
His own team that he's forced to play for.
Mm-hmm. He only had one. He only played on 1 Canadian team too the entire time. That was Calgary. No other Canadian teams is on his team's list.
He was a Flame?
Yeah, it was his last year right before he retired from the NHL. He didn't retire from hockey. He just retired from the NHL.
Right. You're right. He did. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he played with Johnny Hockey. So, hey, there you go. He played
There's
with
some guys,
several generational
There's some
talents.
guys that you forget, like Nick Fatia when he was with the Rangers. He retired as a Flame.
Holy shit.
You get forgotten when you go to Calgary.
Yeah, he did.
Sorry, Flames.
Yeah.
Besides Aginla, no one else remembers who else played on your damn team.
Lanny McDonald. I mean, you can't forget him, right?
Well, okay, yeah. Of course, you can't forget Lanny.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. We're done. No,
Yeah.
we're going to forget T.O. Fleury. He didn't do shit.
And Joe Newman's like, we're going to count him as a Devil because that's when he won all those cups.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, he is still actually playing over in the Czech Republic. All right, then. So now we go to the Flyers.
I didn't get to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to skip you, Brad. Go right ahead.
That's okay. I do have a couple that you guys didn't mention. First, Lemieux, Crosby, Yager, and I'm going to say Joe Mullen and Paul Coffey.
Paul Coffey.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Very good choice. Yeah, I mean, he was. You talk about just being the ultimate threat because the guy didn't play defense. Defense, but he didn't play defense.
No. Listen, I fully admit to that, but you know what? If I'm starting a team, and I want two defensemen, I want Orr and I want Coffey.
Mm-hmm.
I realize I'm going to give up a few goals too, with those two out there, but I'd still take them.
Coffey and Mullen, good picks. Yep, very essential parts of those early '90s Penguins team.
Joe Mullen was a great player.
Absolutely, they were essential for depth when they needed that on those Penguins teams.
Joe Mullen was a first-line player on any team in the league except the Penguins.
Right, but that was only because of look who was ahead of him.
Yeah. Yager and Francis. The super line.
Right. All right. So now we move on to the Flyers. So who wants to start this one off?
I'll start it off.
All right, Robbie.
I'm gonna work from. I'm gonna go. I could just say John LeClair 5 times real quick, but I'm gonna avoid doing that. I'm gonna go number 5, Bernie Perrant.
Bernie,
Best
okay.
of my I think he's got. Flyers have had a few good goaltenders, not many, but a few, and he's definitely the cream of the crop. Number 4, I'm gonna go Reggie Leach. Though Tim Kerr, you could say is up there for most prolific goal scorer, but I think Reggie Leach has that title there. Bobby Clark, the most complete game at number 3. No, Eric Lindros at number 3, Bobby Clark number 2, and number 1 John LeClair.
All right then. Just a little bit of love there for Claire.
Sure, he deserves all the love, man. He was a great Flyer.
He does.
He was.
So, Bry, how do you guys want to do this?
Well, being somebody who's not a Flyer fan, but
okay.
through my eyes, the greatest player of all time with the Flyers was Bernie Perrant. Without him, they aren't even a thought to win a Stanley Cup. Yep. He was the best, one of the best goalies of all time. Nobody ever wants to give him credit, but he was unbelievable when he was with the Flyers.
Do you think that's because his career got cut short?
Yeah, somewhat, yeah. But I mean, when he was with the Flyers, those 2 years they won the Cup, he was completely the difference.
Right.
Because in those final series, Flyers were outplayed territorially pretty badly, especially against Boston. They were completely dominated territorially, but Bernie Perrant stopped everything, and Gilles Gilbert just couldn't stop everything. And I'm trying to remember who was the Buffalo goalie back then. Was it who was their goalie back then? Now I'm trying to remember for Buffalo. I don't remember who Buffalo's goalie was, but Bernie Perrant was just fabulous. I mean, he just was a brick wall. Greatest player I've ever seen for the Flyers. Number 2 would have to be Bobby Clark. I don't think you could ever not put there. 3 would be John LeClair. 4th would be Brian Propp. And 5th would be Marc Howe.
Ooh, Marc Howe, yeah.
Wow.
Pretty much all old school. I like that.
So goaltenders that the Sabres had in 75, 74, 75, Gary Bromley.
Yeah, he was stinky.
What's up?
He was pretty stinky.
Yeah. Roger Crozier, Gary Desjardins, and Rocky Farr.
Okay. Roger Crozier.
Yeah. It's Crozier, not Crozier.
Yeah,
I keep
Crozier.
I keep doing the French pronunciation because that's
okay.
normally how it's done.
Yeah, Roger Crozier. I remember. Yeah, Roger Crozier was their goalie, and I mean, Bernie Perrant was just he was so good it was ridiculous. I mean, I'd never seen a guy who could play goal like him before.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Could be in any order. But will you guys allow me to take Eric Lindros off my list? Because I'd rather Claude Giroux than Eric Lindros. Yeah, the way Claude has performed against, talking about Crosby and Ovechkin of this era and being great with them. I'm throwing G up there instead of Eric.
Nice. I like it. Ballsy move, and I absolutely am here for it. Love it. Love it.
I will.
You know why?
I will. You know how I feel about Lindros.
You guys know why I picked Brian Propp, right?
Yeah.
Because he was good.
Well, besides that, in the Canada Cup, when Gretzky and Lemieux were playing on the first line, do you know who their left wing was?
Brian Propp.
Brian Propp.
Yeah.
You know why? Because Brian Propp was the one who played defense and was the one that brought the puck up from the defensive zone to the offensive zone, and then wisely passed the puck to those two guys and let them do their magic.
Right.
But Brian Propp did all the work on that line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then. So, Bri, what's your list looking like?
Well, I mean, on my list, I got to have my favorite Flyer just as well as Robbie had his. So I got to put it at number 5. I got to put Eric Desjardins there. He was my favorite Flyer. Loved him, met him, got his signature on a hat somewhere in my million boxes behind me. Still living out of boxes here for hopefully the next couple weeks. Hopefully I'll have a place soon. But number 4, I put Eric Lindros. I don't believe he's a Hall of Fame player, but I still think he's one of the best Flyers of all time. 3, I have Claude Giroux for the same reason. I mean, I don't know if Claude winds up in the Hall of Fame, but he's definitely one of the best. To me, he's the second best position player of all time the Flyers have ever had.
He's a Hall of Famer for sure.
He's the last superstar we've had.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
he's got over 1,000 points.
I know a couple guys who are floating over 1,000 points that aren't in yet, but we'll see. Time will tell. Number 2, I got Bernie Perrant, and then at number 1, I have the face of the organization. It's Bobby Clark.
So for me, at number 5, Roska saying Larry Goodenough, Ed Van Imp, Bobby Taylor, and Bobby Clark. Boy, he just picked most of the bullies on that one. Roska, yeah, I was getting to Roenick because Roenick was one of my favorite players when he was playing for the Flyers. So
Adam Oates too, remember him?
Oh, Adam Oates. Adam Oates was one of those guys where it's just like, you know what, you need a setup, man, and Oates is the only guy who knows how to set up better than anybody else, and that's what he fucking did.
He was one heck of a player.
He literally, I think he had 19 goals a season, but he had 50 fucking assists. I'm like, Jesus. It's like, no wonder this guy had as many points as he did. He didn't give a shit about scoring. He just played with a star player like, here, take it. You go score. I don't give a fuck.
Oh, is that you hanging at the blue line? Okay, here you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Headman pass, bang.
Yeah. But all right, so let's see here. So for me at number 5, throw out Roenick. Number 4, I'm going to throw out Simon Gagne because he was my favorite Flyer. Next up at 3, I'm going to throw in good old Claude Giroux. I got to throw Giroux on here because you know what? I don't care. Anyone can say G wasn't talented. They can go fucking piss up a fucking rope. G was one of the best goddamn players this team ever had, and we pissed away his entire time with the Flyers. And that's what makes it so painful. Every time I see Giroux, it's just like he deserved so much better from this organization and the fans on top of that. So besides G, next up at number 2, I narrowed it down eventually to I got to throw Bobby Clark on there only because he's pretty much the embodiment of what the Flyers are. You know, when you talk about it's like, what are the Flyers? Bobby Clark. That's it. I got nothing else to say. That's what they are. Teddy dangerously saying 2018 Canada team verdict is going to say a lot about Hart's future. Connect the dots. Traded for Peterson, drafted goalies 2nd and 3rd round this past draft. We trade him for the best package probably. Canada team thoughts. Well, we haven't heard anything on it. So, but thank you for the $9.99 on that, Ted. By the way, again, we'll see. Well, we don't really know. I haven't heard anything about it. I don't think anyone's heard anything about it. And these kind of things will take a while before the whole process. If it goes to a trial and it goes to investigation, indictments happen, you know, it's like we haven't even heard anything about indictments. So it's like we don't even know. Literally haven't heard anything about it. I don't know. Have you guys?
Hart has been interviewed. That's the only thing that's been substantiated, and they kind of made it play off in this article that I read that he was more of a bystander giving information and not an infractor. But unfortunately, a lot of times, if you're aware of something that's going on, you're just as guilty. So there could be some worry there, and I feel like, you know, they wanted to get deeper and more established in the most important position on a hockey team, and that's goaltending. That's something the Flyers organization is always centered on 1 or 2 guys and never looked big picture, and something that these guys are doing differently. And I like it, and I applaud them for it, because they could have went after other targets, relying upon the talent we already have in you know, assuming Fedotov comes, you know, other guys, Maximov, that we have in the organization. But in the end, they went out and got the best U.S. goaltender there in the 2nd round. And I think it's all because if shit hits the fan, you're already prepared for it. You're ahead of the game. But I don't think it represents any concern, you know, with Hart, because these guys are so way down the pipeline. You know what I mean? That they can become NHL ready at the point where Hart is now a veteran. So I just think it's great depth for the organization overall.
Yeah, it's yeah. We'll definitely see what happens as we move forward with that. Whether that comes to be a decision that has to be made. Is that how'd you pass Gagne, Mr. Clutchman? Oh no, we didn't. He's on my list. Gagne is one of my favorite Flyers of all time. And as for the number 1 for me, you know what? Everyone threw out Bernie. I'll give some love to Hexy. Because you know what? Where Bernie left off, Hexy picked up. Now, to be fair, it would have been Pelly had he not died. But since he died, the torch wound up going to Hexy instead. And boy, did he pick it up, and he started flinging it at players. Literally flinging it at players.
Yes, he did.
So, yeah, I will say that will be my number 1 on that one. So there we have that. Roska threw out Yusuf Baranik, Dmitry Yuskevich, Pelle Eklund, Tommy Soderstrom, and Marc Peterson, and Sean Couturier, and the final part on that. So
I don't even know who these other guys are.
Well, Pelle Eklund was in the 80s. Yes, 80s. Tommy Soderstrom, early 90s? I think it was early 90s when Soderstrom was playing for the Flyers. Forget when Marc Peterson was playing. Yuskevich, I think that was 90s, early 2000s. Baranik, I think, was also that same era, like mid-90s. I think that was when he was playing for the Flyers. But
It's time to wrap it up, though.
yeah, we're going to wrap all this shit up. All right, we thank everybody for joining us for another edition of the Hockey Happy Hour. And once again, we were brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, Dr. Paul Vidal. Any aches and pains, call the doc, and his team will take care of you so you don't have them anymore. And to close this one out, we hope that everybody likes and subscribes. A2D Radio, plenty of shows to go around for everybody, from hockey to football to basketball to baseball to wrestling. To everything you could possibly imagine, we will have it taken care of for you. Hell, if you want to, you can even ask us life advice. I don't know if you should act on it, but we'll give you something. Anyway, with that being said, we thank you all for joining us here on the Hockey Happy Hour. We will see you next week when we break down another part. I'm assuming part 2 of the Metro. I believe that's what we'll be doing. We'll see. All right.
We'll see.
Keep everybody on their toes. But don't worry, you'll know soon enough. Next week, we'll break down some more teams. We'll see how they fit. We'll see if maybe there might be some surprises when this season rolls around in our predictions. And then we'll get to find out how dead wrong we are. Next week, right here on the Hockey Happy Hour. We'll see you guys then. Until then, peace and love, everyone.